reason why is because it's not cool to shill for big business. It's not cool to shill for Israel. It's not. It's gay.
How you get so much favor on your side? Except to mention Lord Savior, I replied. I should look that neighbor, not divide. I'm bad, that's on God. It's like shining brightest in the dark. Single mothers know they got my heart. And all my brothers locked up on the yard. You can still be anything you wanna be. Went from 1 and 4 to 1 and 3. 13th Amendment, gotta end it, that's on me. Need a new commander and a chief. That's the key.
I fear and love God. When you remove the fear and love of God, you create the fear and love of everything else. You talking to somebody right now that only fears God. Jesus has won the victory, bro.
This is a Christian nation. This is America.
We brainwashed out here, bro. Come on, man. This is a free man talking.
America first is inevitable. It's unstoppable. And the reason why is because it's not cool to shill for big business. It's not cool to shill for Israel. It's not. It's gay.
How you get so much favor on your side? Except to mention Lord Savior, I replied. I should look that neighbor, not divide. I'm bad, that's on God. It's like shining brightest in the dark. Single mothers know they got my heart. And all my brothers locked up on the yard. You can still be anything you wanna be. Went from 1 and 4 to 1 and 3. 13th Amendment, gotta end it, that's on me. Need a new commander and a chief. That's the key.
I fear and love God. When you remove the fear and love of God, you create the fear and love of everything else. You talking to somebody right now that only fears God. Jesus has won the victory, bro.
This is a Christian nation. This is America.
brainwashed out here, bro. Come on, man. This is a free man talking.
America First is inevitable. It's unstoppable. And the reason why is because it's not cool to shill for big business. It's not cool to shill for Israel. It's not. It's gay.
How you get so much favor on your side? Except to let the Lord and Savior, I replied. I should look that neighbor, not the bad. I'm bad, that's on God. It's like shining brightest in the dark. Single mothers know they get my heart. And all my brothers locked up on the yard. You can still be anything you wanna be. Went from 1 and 4 to 1 and 3. 13th Amendment, gotta end it, that's on me. Be the new commander and the chief. That's the key.
I fear and love God. When you remove the fear and love of God, you create the fear and love of everything else. You talking to somebody right now that only fears God. Jesus has won the victory, bro.
With $4 trillion in new taxes, we face a critical choice. Joe Biden's far-left failed policies of the past 47 years, or President Trump, who will stand up for the American people and the Constitution. I believe in the wisdom and spirit of the American people to elect the only candidate who is capable of protecting the American dream, President Donald J. Trump. Thank you to the North Country for the opportunity to serve as your voice supporting his re-election. God bless the United States of America, the greatest country on earth.
Good evening. I'm Madison Cawthorn, and I'm running to represent North Carolina's 11th Congressional District. This is a time of great adversity for our country, and I know something about adversity. At 18 years old, I was in a horrific car accident that's left me paralyzed from the waist down. Instantly, my hopes and dreams were seemingly destroyed. I was given a 1% chance of surviving, but thanks to the power of prayer, a very loving community, and many skilled doctors, I made it. It took me over a year to recover. My first public outing in a wheelchair was to a professional baseball game. You know, before my accident, I was 6'3". I stood out in a crowd. But as I wheeled through the stadium, I felt invisible. At 20, I thought about giving up. However, I knew I could still make a difference. You know, my accident has given me new eyes to see and new ears to hear. God protected my mind and my ability to speak. So I say to people who feel forgotten, ignored, and invisible, I see you. I hear you. At 20, I made a choice. In 2020, our country has a choice. We can give up on the American idea, or we can work together to make our imperfect union more perfect. I choose to fight for the future, to seize the high ground and retake the shining city on a hill. While the radical left wants to dismantle, defund, and destroy, Republicans, under President Trump's leadership, want to rebuild, restore, and renew. I just turned 25. When I'm elected this November, I'll be the youngest member of Congress in over 200 years. And if you don't think young people can change the world, then you just don't know American history. George Washington was 21 when he received his first military commission. Abe Lincoln, 22 when he first ran for office. And my personal favorite, James Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence. In times of peril, young people have stepped up and saved this country, abroad and at home. We held the line, scaled the cliffs, crossed oceans, liberated camps, and cracked codes. Yet today, political forces want to usher in the digital dark ages, a time of information without wisdom, and tribalism without truth. National leaders on the left have normalized emotion-based voting and a radicalized identity politics that rejects Martin Luther King's dream. MLK's dream is our dream, for all Americans to be judged solely on their character. Millions of people risk their lives every year to come here because they believe in the dream of MLK and the American dream. Join us as we, the Party of Freedom, double down on ensuring the American dream for all people. We are committed to building a new town square. It welcomes all ideas and all people. Here we will have freedom of speech, not freedom from speech. To liberals, I say let's have a conversation. Be a true liberal. Listen to other ideas and let the best ones prevail. And to conservatives, I say let's define what we support and win the argument in areas like healthcare and on the environment. In this new town square, you don't have to apologize for your beliefs or cower to a mob. You can kneel before God, but stand for our flag. The American idea my ancestors fought for during the Revolutionary War is just as exciting and revolutionary today as it was 250 years ago. I say to Americans who love our country, young and old, be a radical for freedom. Be a radical for liberty. And be a radical for our republic, for which I stand, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and may God bless America.
I'm Jack Brewer, a former three-time NFL team captain, college professor, coach, husband, son, and father. I'm also a lifelong Democrat, but I support Donald Trump. Let me be clear, I didn't come here for the popularity or the praise, the likes or the retweets. I'm here as a servant to God, a servant to the people of our nation, and a servant to our president. I grew up in Grapevine, Texas, a town that my great-grandfather was the first black man to settle as a sharecropper in 1896. My early high school experience included fighting with skinheads and being a witness in an attempted murder trial after my friend shot a skinhead in self-defense. I remember my dad's bravery when he personally stood up against a KKK rally in my town. In my house, my father taught me to back down from no one. I know what racism looks like. I've seen it firsthand. In America, it has no resemblance to President Trump. And I'm fed up with the way he's portrayed in the media, who refuse to acknowledge what he's actually done for the black community. It's confusing the minds of our innocent children. Before I left to come deliver this message, my energetic 8-year-old son, Jackson, stopped me and said, "Dad, can you please just tell everyone that all lives need to matter and that God loves everyone?" In that moment, I realized that my 8-year-old had figured out what so many adults have seemed to forget. We are not as divided as our politics suggest. At some point, for the sake of our children, the policies must take priority over the personalities. So because you have an issue with President Trump's tone, you're going to allow Biden and Harris to deny our underserved black and brown children school choice? Are we so offended by the president's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," that we're going to ignore that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have collectively been responsible for locking up countless black men for nonviolent crimes? Are you going to allow the media to lie to you by falsely claiming that he said there were very fine white supremacists in Charlottesville? He didn't say that. It's a lie. And ignore the so-called Black Lives Matter organization that openly, on their website, calls for the destruction of the nuclear family. My fellow Americans, our families need each other. We need black fathers in the homes with their wives and children. The future of our communities depend on it. I'm blessed to be able to run inner city youth programs and to also teach in prisons across America. The inmates in my federal prison program literally receive days off their sentence just for attending my class. And that's thanks to President Donald Trump and his First Step Act. President Trump cared about these Americans and their families, even when so many others had left them behind and had written them off. I'm forever grateful for President Trump for that. He endures relentless attacks, and so do many of us, like myself, who support him. But my mama always told me, when the Lord starts blessing, the devil starts messing. This convention marks a time to celebrate our history. Republicans are the party that freed the slaves and the party that put the first black men and women in Congress. It's the party of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And now, Tim Scott and Donald Trump. Our president has made incredible strides to end mass incarceration and give unprecedented opportunities for black in America to rise. America, let this election be a call for all God's people who are called by his name to humble ourselves and pray together and to seek his face and to turn from our wicked ways. Then he will hear us from heaven, and he will forgive our sins, and he will heal our land. Amen, and God bless America.
Greetings. My name is Chen Guangcheng. Standing up to tyranny is not easy, I know. When I spoke out against China's one-child policy and other injustices, I was prosecuted, beaten, sent to prison, and put under house arrest by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. In April 2012, I escaped and was given shelter in the American Embassy in Beijing. I'm forever grateful to the American people for welcoming me and my family to the United States, where we are now free. The CCP is an enemy of humanity. It is terrorizing its own people, and it is threatening the well-being of the world. In China, expressing beliefs or ideas not approved by the CCP, religion, democracy, human rights can lead to prison. The nation lives under mass surveillance and censorship. The U.S. must use its values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law to gather a coalition of other democracies to stop CCP's aggression. President Trump had led on this, and we need the other countries to join him in this fight. A fight for our future.
Hey, everybody.
Standing up to fight unfairness isn't easy.
You're watching America First.
So
My name is Nicholas J.
President
Fuentes.
Trump,
We've got a great show. We have a
showing
great
the
show for you
courage
tonight.
to wage that fight.
I'm joining you live
We
for
need
the
to
third
support,
night
vote,
of the
and
RNC.
fight for President Trump for the
It's going really
sake
well.
of the world. Thank you.
Clearly. Clearly it is going very well tonight. And it's been going well. It's been going well for the past
Congressman
couple of
Lee
days.
Zeldin. Tonight, as we celebrate America as a land of heroes, I'm here at a VFW Post of Heroes in West Hampton Beach, New York. I've seen amazing Americans in action. Raised in a law enforcement family, deployed to Iraq as an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and serving today in the Army Reserve. My generation of post-9/11 veterans has huge shoes to fill. Following our
pretty
greatest
rough,
generation
honestly.
that fought tyranny,
Pretty rough last night. Hasn't
saved
been
the
as
world.
rough tonight.
all over our country.
Last night was brutal.
Everyday heroes serve and sacrifice for the greater good. Farmers,
Jewish?
truckers, craftsmen.
Yo, Baked Alaskan
these
chat.
heroes
Yoba.
keep America running. And President Trump
Yoba.
fights
Can we
for
get
them
some Yoba
every
heads
day.
in chat?
This year, we've especially relied on one particular group of heroes, frontline medical workers. My twin daughters, Michaela and Ariana, were born over 14 weeks early. They weighed just 1.5 pounds. At 2 weeks, Michaela went into septic shock, had a stroke, and underwent brain surgery, leaving 1/3 of the left side of her brain a hole. Her doctors didn't believe Michaela would survive, fearing dire permanent consequences even if she did.
Who's even speaking
Through
tonight?
the miracles of modern medicine.
Yeah, whatever.
Power-
Don't care. So what, tonight it's Mike Pence. Who's Kayleigh McEnany? Who even is that? Is that the press secretary, that blonde? Let me look it up. Kayleigh Mc... Yeah, that's the press secretary. Come on, man. It was brutal yesterday. I couldn't cover it yesterday, but it was from start to finish. It was just brutal. The prayer for the black guy, and then in Kenosha. And then what else? What the hell else happened? It was the prayer, the diversity prayer for the guy that got killed in Kenosha. And then it was the bank robber. And then it was the naturalization ceremony. Then it was Mike Pompeo from Israel. So it just keeps getting better, right? That was yesterday. I think it'll probably be a little bit better tonight. But I mean, the only reason why it might be better tonight is because it couldn't possibly be worse than yesterday. So it's not awesome. So it's not
secure than
not
ever.
great. I'm still going to vote for
make our
Trump, but
country
this
greater
is just a
than
disaster,
ever before,
you know? At least yesterday
we must
was.
re-elect President Trump. We are the land of the free because of the brave. And we are the land of opportunity because we have a president who wants to empower the best of who we
It's
are
just all
to be
this
the best of
nonsense,
what we can be.
This platitudinal stuff.
There's
Is
never
that a
been
word?
a nation greater than ours. Never a people
We are the
more
land of the
resilient than
free
ours.
because of the brave.
And
Wow,
never
yeah,
a
never heard
future
that one
for
before.
America more promising than ours right now. Keeping America great is up to us, and losing is not an option.
And I'm very proud to have President Trump in office here. He's the best we've ever
Yeah,
had.
Nick Sandman was
He's
okay
done the most
yesterday.
for any president ever has done.
Pretty
He's
good.
always there
Pretty good.
trying to take care of
I agree.
veterans, giving veterans what they need. And the turnaround times have increased since Trump has taken over. You have to fight 15 years for benefits, but once he came into office, you had like 90 days. You turned your paperwork in, at least you had some kind of answer.
I waited months for a signature on a piece of paper to get a prosthetic leg fixed.
This is good. This
Now
is good
it's
stuff.
a lot
Can't go
better
wrong with
turnaround.
this,
But
right?
before, it was a 5-year waiting process to appeal. So how long do we have to wait for benefits?
I waited 20 years to file. Rapidly was approved for medical and then turned right around and got disability. I was thinking it was going to be several years worth of waiting to hear.
He's accomplished a lot in 3.5 years. And it helps the American people, and he has done a lot for veterans, for the middle class.
I chose to serve my country. If I could do it, I would do it all over again. Especially for this president. I mean, he's the kind of president you'd run through a brick wall if he asked you to.
Went through many presidents.
I would
But
run through
this
a brick
one,
wall
I
if
can
the
say,
president asked
is the
me to.
best president we've ever had and ever will have, I believe.
You know, you got to keep in mind, even though the foreign policy adventures are misguided,
hello everyone, and
the problem
thank
is
you for
with
inviting
the
me
Pentagon,
into your
not
home
with
this
the
evening.
not with the veterans.
It's
you know?
truly a privilege.
The troops are
My
great.
name is
It's the
Joni
leadership
Ernst.
that sucks.
I was raised on a small family farm here in Iowa, where I learned the importance of faith, hard work, and service. I worked my way through college, then dedicated my life to serving my country as a local official, a battalion commander in the military, and as a U.S. Senator. Service, it's more than a word to me. It's a mission, a way of life. It's what brought me to Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 2008 when I was in the National Guard. We saw historic floods that swept through the communities. We lent a helping hand to our fellow Iowans who were literally underwater. We thought we had seen the worst, but 12 years later,
Smart
these
to have
same
her, 'cause
communities
it's a
have
swing
faced
state,
an even more
obviously.
devastating disaster, the recent derecho storm. If you don't live in Iowa, you may not have heard much about it at first. While reporters here in the state were in the trenches covering the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane, most of the national media looked the other way.
I was in that
To
storm.
them,
I was driving in
Iowa
that
is
storm
still
on
just
the highway.
flyover country.
It was crazy.
Houses, farms were destroyed. About 1/3 of our crops here were damaged. In some cases, these storms wiped out a lifetime of work. And yet Iowa farmers didn't hesitate to grab their chainsaws and check on their neighbors. Our farmers live every day with that sense of service, the stewards of the land, the ones who feed and fuel the world. President Trump quickly signed an emergency declaration for Iowa to provide relief. And of course, when President Trump came to Cedar Rapids, the national media finally did too. For years, I've worked closely with the president for farmers in Iowa and across the country. We scrapped Obama and Biden's punishing waters of the United States rule, which would have regulated about 97% of land in Iowa, in some cases, even puddles. It would have been a nightmare for farmers. The president delivered on major trade deals with Japan and the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. And he implemented the sale of E15 fuel year-round. That means more choices for you at the pump and more jobs for farmers in the heartland. This is something the Obama-Biden administration failed to do in 8 years. In fact, I can't recall an administration more hostile to farmers than Obama-Biden, unless you count the Biden-Harris ticket. The Democratic Party of Joe Biden is pushing this so-called Green New Deal.
Yeah, this is
if
pretty
given
effective.
Power,
I
they
have
would
no complaints
essentially
about
ban
this. I like
animal
her.
agriculture and eliminate gas-powered cars.
And the
it
speech
would
is pretty
destroy
good.
the agriculture industry, not just here in Iowa,
This is for the
but
base, you know.
throughout the
This is
country.
for the actual
When the
constituents of the
pandemic
party.
hit,
Immigration
President
stuff
Trump
is
heard us
bullshit,
in our
but
call
this is
for
for
assistance for our
obviously people in
farmers.
Iowa.
Knowing we have an
people
ally
in
in the White
Texas.
House is important. Folks,
Even
this election
probably
is a
people in the
choice
Midwest,
between
elsewhere.
two very
So,
different paths.
This is good.
Freedom, prosperity, and economic growth under a Trump-Pence administration. Or the Biden-Harris path, paved by liberal coastal elites and radical environmentalists. An America where farmers are punished, jobs are destroyed, and taxes crush the middle class. That is our choice, and it's a clear one. Thank you, and God bless.
Nice. Why, dude? Why the endless parade
Ladies and
of
gentlemen,
blacks,
I'm Burgess Owens.
token blacks?
Shackled in the belly of a slave ship.
This guy's
an
not
8-year-old
even an
boy
elected
named
official. He's
Silas
just a
Burgess
candidate.
Came to America to be sold on an auction block. By the grace of God and the courage of slaves who believed in
Is this
freedom,
the DNC or the
Silas
RNC?
escaped through the Underground Railroad and settled in the great state of Texas. He went on to become a successful entrepreneur. He built his community's first church, first elementary school, and purchased 102 acres
It's like
of farmland, which he
noticeable.
paid
It's
off
so
in 2 years.
noticeable.
I'm here
for the
today,
past 3
a
nights,
candidate for
interjecting
Congress
all these
because
blacks,
of my
all these black
great-great-grandfather,
nobodies.
Silas Burgess.
This guy's
I
a
was raised in the
candidate.
South during the days of Jim Crow and the KKK. Even through the challenges of segregation, we were taught that
But you
anything
know what it is. It's
possible in
deliberate
America.
tokenism.
When I was 22 years old, I thought all my dreams had come true when I was drafted by the New York Jets. 10 years later, with a Pro Bowl nod and a Super Bowl championship under my belt, I left the NFL to start a business. I thought I could never fail, but years later I did, and I lost everything. As I moved my family of 6 into a 1-bedroom basement apartment in Brooklyn, New York, I had a choice to make: to feel sorry for myself or get to work. I worked as a chimney sweep during the day and a security guard at night. It was humbling to be recognized cleaning a chimney by someone who once cheered me as an NFL fan. But those hard days would pay off, and eventually I started a career.
The problem isn't even that they're pandering. The problem is who they're pandering to.
To dream big.
Pandering to black voters with black representation doesn't work.
We don't hear that same message from
the point of the convention is to ostensibly to pander to the voters.
And even a former bartender want us to believe.
And I know even yesterday I was bashing the immigration naturalization ceremony, and everybody said, "You don't understand politics. This is good optics." That's not good optics. Good optics doesn't mean cucking. Good optics means good optics. It means looks good, good presentation, good rhetoric.
That my father fought against in World War II.
And good means effective. It means effective. It means strategic.
If I don't vote for him,
this is not,
now more than
it doesn't mean like, it presents like the left or it presents like the mainstream. No, it means presenting your message in an effective and persuasive way. And pandering to blacks doesn't make any sense because 90% of blacks vote for Democrats, and not going to change anytime soon.
Once again, be the America
maybe they'll get a few more this year, but what? 9%, 10%? I mean, it's peanuts
among blacks, Hispanics, and
in terms of the total number of votes you're going to get. So
those same groups
you have to pander to the people that are likely to vote for you, which is whites. Should be pandering to non-college educated whites and whites broadly.
Because we don't need
and if you're going to pander to any minority group, it makes sense to pander to Hispanics. But
we need more leaders like President Trump.
The endless
who understand the freedoms that make up the fabric of America.
BLM stuff.
My fellow Americans. Specifically,
it just doesn't make any sense strategically, because you got to think like, who are you pandering for?
And put aside partisan barriers. Help us win back the House, keep the Senate, and give our president 4 more years. And I promise you, we will make you proud. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
Yeah, like why do a speech like, "Oh, I was on a slave plantation," and
over Baltimore Harbor?
Why even have that in there?
Is the remains of an earthen star, a relic of time past. It recalls a time when the spirit of liberty stirred in men of renown who stood in the gap against the most powerful force in the world. 27 hours, 1,000 men, low on ammunition, firing scrap metal. The battle raged, insurmountable odds. A darkness fell upon this new nation. In the midst of the fight, the heroes of Fort McHenry were unmoved. The light of dawn overcame the darkness. The gallant flag hoisted above Fort McHenry, torn and battered, stood, victoriously observing a dejected enemy slowly retreating into the rising sun, inspiring the anthem of our nation.
That's great stuff. This is good stuff.
Not to be denied, the earthen star, Fort McHenry.
Because it's striking the contrast between the Democrats that obviously hate America, and then it's very smart that the Republicans are embracing America. Trump, more than anybody,
past,
really.
Present, and future generations of freedom-loving Americans when we hear the anthem and raise the Star-Spangled Banner.
We get a lot of currency out of being like the patriotic party, which, normally neither party would have a monopoly, but Trump. In these times you get it.
Daughter of Bob and Linda Unaska, sister to Kyle, mother to Luke and Carolina, and the daughter-in-law of our 45th president, Donald J. Trump.
Why are you speaking tonight?
But tonight I come to you simply as an American. My life began like many in our country.
No, you're speaking as you're the president's daughter, daughter-in-law, whatever.
My parents were small business owners and worked hard to make sure that my
brother
and I
as a regular American, really? I'm a regular
but
American.
Not everything we
I'm
wanted.
not speaking at the RNC.
My parents raised me to believe that in America, I could achieve anything with hard work and determination. that the opportunities available to me were limited only by the size of my ambition, that I should dream big, and I did. Those very dreams are what led me to New York City. I'd heard the adage, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere, and I intended to do just that. Never in a million years did I think that I would be on this stage tonight, and I certainly never thought that I'd end up with the last name Trump. My 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. B, used to tell us, believe
who
none
cares?
of what you hear,
I hate when
half
people
of
do
what
that.
you read,
In
and
7th
only
grade, my
what you're
teacher
there to
said it. No
witness
one cares that your
firsthand.
fucking grade school
The meaning
teacher
of those
told
words
you.
never fully weighed on me until I met my husband and the Trump family. Any preconceived notion I had of this family disappeared immediately. They were warm and caring. They were hard workers, and they were down to earth. They reminded me of my own family. They made me feel like I was home. Walking the halls of the Trump organization, I saw the same family environment.
Is anybody
I
else
also
just
saw
like
the
totally
countless women
unmoved by their
executives who
grade school
thrived there
teachers? I
year
feel like women
after
in
year.
particular are like,
Gender didn't
my
matter.
English teacher
What
from
mattered
4th
was
grade
the
told
ability
me,
to
and I
get the
never
job
forgot,
done.
like,
I
my
learned
grade
this
school
directly
teachers
when,
did not
in
have that
2016,
impact
my
on me
father-in-law asked me
at all.
to help him win my cherished home state and my
I
daughter's
don't think back,
namesake,
like,
North
if it wasn't
Carolina.
for Mr. Anderson,
Though I, had
I would
no
never,
political
like,
experience, he believed
no.
in me. He knew I
No,
was
pretty
capable,
uninspiring,
even if
honestly. I
didn't.
mean, I like them all, don't get me
So
wrong.
it didn't
Great
surprise
people,
me
but
when
like,
President Donald Trump appointed so many women
you know,
to
they're
senior-level
teachers. They're
positions
just
in his
like,
administration.
grade school
Secretary
teachers.
of the United
They told me to
Nations,
believe in myself, and then I
Secretary of the
did.
Air
Like,
Force,
really?
The first female CIA director, the first black female director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and countless ambassadors, just to name a few. Under President Trump's leadership, women's unemployment
they had a good
hit
impact
the
on me,
lowest
but nothing
level
like,
since World War II.
like, whoa, my life was on one
4.3
course,
million
and
new jobs
then
have been created for women.
I learned how to
In
read.
2019 alone, women
You
took
know,
over
I don't get
70%
that.
of all new jobs. Female small business ownership remains at an all-time high, and
great.
600,000 women have been lifted out of poverty, all since President Trump took office. He didn't do these things to gain a vote or check a box. He did them because they're the right things to do.
She's probably the best speaker, though,
100
out
years
of all
ago
the
today,
kids
the
so
19th
far.
Amendment
She's better
was
than Eric,
ratified,
Don Jr.,
granting
and
the right to
Melania.
vote to every American
Melania's
woman.
not the kid, I guess, out of the
And
family.
since that day, incredible strides have been made by women
Better than
in
Tiffany.
America. From Amelia Earhart to Rosa Parks
Just
and Sally
strictly
Ride,
in terms of
women
delivery.
shaped our history and are part of what has made our country the most exceptional nation in the world. I often think back to my 24-year-old self, driving alone in my car from North Carolina to New York City. And I think about what I'd tell myself now as we head towards the most critical election in modern history. This is not just a choice between Republican and Democrat or left and right. This is an election that will decide if we keep America America or if we head down an uncharted, frightening path towards socialism.
Oh, come on.
Abraham
Is that what
Lincoln
it
once
is,
famously
or is it
said, America
BLM
will never be
anarchy?
destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves.
Whoa.
While those words were spoken over 150 years ago, never have they been more relevant. Will we choose the right path and maintain the unique freedoms and boundless opportunities that make this country the greatest in the history of the world?
It's just so tone
Will we
deaf to
remain
talk
the
about
beacon of hope for
socialism
those
when,
around
like,
the world
you've got
fighting
cities on
oppression,
fire in the
communism, and
heartland of
tyranny?
the country. It's
The
like
choice is
Minneapolis
ours.
is on fire.
I know the promise
Not
of
New
America
York City,
because I've lived
Minneapolis.
it. Not
you know?
just as a member of the Trump
Not
family,
Boston,
but as a woman
Kenosha.
who knows what it's like to work in blue-collar jobs, to serve customers
the
for
whole
tips,
country
and
is
to
upside down,
aspire
and
to
they're talking
rise.
about socialism.
When I look at my son
Really?
Luke and my daughter Carolina, I wonder, what sort of country will I be leaving for them, for our future generations? In recent months, we've seen weak, spineless politicians cede control of our great American cities to violent mobs. Defund the police is the rallying cry for the new radical Democrat Party. Joe Biden will not do what it takes to maintain order, to keep our children safe in our
Trump
neighborhoods
isn't
and
doing
in their
what it
schools,
takes to maintain
to
order.
restore our American way of life.
The whole country's on fire.
To
Oh,
dream our
God.
biggest dreams for ourselves or for our children, while
Joe
consumed
Biden will
by
never
worry
keep order,
about the
unlike
safety of our
the
families.
current situation, which
President
is great.
Trump
Everything's
is
going
the law
great.
and order president, from our borders to our backyards. President Trump will keep America safe.
Yeah?
President Trump will keep America prosperous.
Is that so?
President Trump will keep America America. If you're watching tonight and wrestling with your vote on November 3rd, I implore you, tune out the distorted news and biased commentary and hear it straight from someone who knows. I wasn't born a Trump. I'm from the South. I was raised a Carolina girl. I went to public schools and worked my way through a state university. Mrs. B from my 7th grade English class was right. What I learned about our president is different than what you might have heard.
Sounds like a book report.
I learned that he's a good man, that he loves his family,
most like
that
basic
he didn't need this
bitch.
job, that no one on
Public
earth works
speaking.
harder for the
So
American
you're
people.
going to start with a personal
that he's willing
anecdote,
to fight
and
for
then you're
his
going to want to
beliefs
tie
and
it
for
back
the
in at the
people
end.
and the country that he loves.
Yeah, public speaking 101.
He is a person of conviction. He is a fighter and will never stop fighting for America. He will uphold our values.
And just like how
He will
Mrs. B
preserve
told
our
me,
families.
yeah.
And he will
Lame.
build upon the
Fucking
great
lame.
American edict that our union
Amateur.
will never be perfect
Rebel
until
yell, somebody
opportunity
says.
is equal
I love
for
that song.
all, including and especially for women. Our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, said it best. The dreams of people may differ, but everybody wants their dreams to come true. And America, above all places, gives us the freedom to do that. It's up to us to keep this
What
country
a dumb
a place where
quote.
no
Totally
dream
hollow.
is out of
Why
reach
is that meaningful?
for our children.
Everyone
and
wants their dreams to
generations
come
beyond.
true. Okay, yeah, obviously.
To my father-in-law,
Right.
thank you for believing in me. Thank you for bravely leading this country, and thank you for continuing to fight every day.
We're all
for America.
different, but everybody wants to
May
eat.
God bless and
Like,
protect the
yeah,
Gulf states
yeah,
in the path of the
obviously,
hurricane.
course.
May God bless our
Duh.
troops, and may
Right?
God continue to bless
It's
this
just
incredible
like,
country.
we could do so much better. We could do so much better than what we've done so far. It's been rough. I mean, look, it's not horrible. It's not as bad as last night, but
Good evening. My name is Sam Vigil. There is a hole in my heart since my beloved Jackie was taken from me. This is her story. There were two things that Jackie loved to do every day. One was to go to the gym and tweet out Bible verses and prayers to her friends. On November 19th, the
he's literally
tweet
crying.
stopped.
The speech hasn't even started yet.
That day started out like any other day. She left for the gym early in the morning. I heard the garage door open. Seconds later, I heard the car horn. I went outside to see if she had forgotten something. What I saw was a Jeep blocking her car in the driveway. I noticed the bullet hole in Jackie's window. I saw someone jumping into the Jeep and speeding away. Jackie had just been shot and killed in cold blood. We think this was a carjacking gone wrong, very wrong. Every time I open the garage door or stand in the driveway, I hear that horn. I see her slumped in the seat. When I go to bed at night, that sound and image haunt me. That's my life sentence. It's a sentence being served by too many families left behind by senseless killings. Albuquerque, where I live, is one of the most violent cities in the country. Fewer than 50% of homicides are solved. It is
That's
a
pretty
sad
horrible,
irony
actually.
that Jackie immigrated to the U.S. for a better life than her native Colombia, only to be gunned down in her own driveway. For 8 months, there were no arrests, no leads in connection with Jackie's murder. The Albuquerque police were overwhelmed. They needed help. Help arrived when President Trump launched Operation Legend in July of this year. Almost immediately, the FBI took over Jackie's case. In a matter of days, they arrested 4 people. The 5th suspect killer was arrested in Texas on unrelated charges. He is an illegal immigrant with a long criminal record. He had been deported in September and had come back in October to terrorize our community. I am extremely grateful to President Trump and the FBI for their efforts to deliver justice for Jackie and all the other innocent victims of violent crime. I am honored to support the president because he is supporting us. I know he will never stop fighting for justice, for law and order, for peace, security in our communities.
So that was great. That's exactly what we need. You know, if you want to
Greetings,
pander to
my fellow
immigrants or
Americans.
Hispanics, that's the
I am
angle.
Clarence Henderson. There have been movements that have changed the course of history. Among the most extraordinary was the Civil Rights Movement. 60 years ago, segregation was legal and enforced.
And then we get this.
The simple
Really?
act of sitting at a lunch counter could lead to
This guy can't
physical
even fucking
harm,
tie a tie.
jail time, or worse. I know from personal experience. Walking into Woolworth department store on February 2nd, 1960, I knew it was unlike any day I'd experienced before. My friends had been denied service the day before because of the color of their skin.
Why?
Knew
Why
it
include
wasn't right.
anything about this in
But
the
when
RNC?
we went back the next day, I didn't know whether I was going to come out in a vertical or prone position, in handcuffs or on a stretcher.
It just makes no
or
sense.
even
This
in a body
mythology
bag.
does not work with
By
what we're
sitting
trying
down
to push.
to order a
Because
cup
it's
of
not
coffee,
ours.
we challenged injustice. We knew it was necessary, but we didn't know what would happen.
The problem is the
We
Republicans
faced
every
down
time are
the
like,
KKK.
let's do a little
We
thing
were
to
cursed
like
at
take the wind
and
out of the
called
sails of the
all kinds
left.
of names.
You shouldn't do
They
that
threatened
ever.
to kill us.
They
and some
never
of
play
us
our
were
game.
arrested.
Why would we play their
But
game?
it was worth it. Our actions inspired similar protests throughout the South against racial injustice. And in the end, segregation was abolished, and our country moved a step closer to true equality for all. That's what actual peaceful protest can accomplish. America isn't perfect. We're always improving.
Yes, it is.
But the great thing about this country is that it's not where you come from, it's where you're going. I was born on what some would call the wrong side of the tracks. I don't even have a birth certificate. I never attended an integrated school, and am the only one out of my immediate family who graduated from college, an HBCU. I'm a military veteran and a civil rights activist. And you
Don't
know what
care.
else? I'm a Republican, and
Don't
I
fucking
support
care,
Donald
man.
Trump.
Don't care.
If that sounds strange, you don't know your history. It was the Republican Party that passed the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. It was the Republican Party that passed the 14th Amendment, giving black men citizenship. It was the Republican Party that passed the 15th Amendment, giving black men the right to vote. Freedom of thought is a powerful thing. There are Americans, voters all over the country, who media is trying to convince to conform to the same old Democratic talking points. You know what that'll get you? The same old results. Joe Biden had the audacity to say, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Well, to that, I say, if you do vote for Biden, you don't know history.
Wow, really
Donald
powerful
Trump
rebuttal.
is not a politician. He's a leader. Politicians are a dime a dozen. Leaders are priceless.
Wow.
The record funding Trump gave HBCUs is priceless too. So are the record number of jobs he created for the black community and the investment he drove into our neighborhoods with tax incentives in opportunity zones. And so are the lives he restored by passing criminal justice reform, where 91% of the inmates released are black. These achievements demonstrate that Donald Trump truly cares about black lives. His policies show his heart.
So it's Black
He has
Lives
done
Matter,
more
yeah.
for black
Great.
Americans in 4 years than Joe Biden
Just
has
why?
done
I
in
mean,
50.
why? I don't.
Donald
Well, I
Trump
mean, we
is
know why, but
offering
it's
real and lasting change, an unprecedented
course we know
opportunity to rise.
It just makes
a
no sense.
country that embraces the
There's
spirit
no
of the
reason.
civil rights movement
No
of the 60s.
reason for it.
A place where
No
people
good reason why we
are
should be
judged
playing
by
like
the
that.
content of their character, their talents and abilities, not by the color of their skin. This is the America I was fighting for 60 years ago. This is the America Donald Trump is fighting for today. Let's all join in this fight for re-electing President Trump on November 3rd.
And this sucks. He's not
Thank
even
you.
good at talking. Yeah, whatever, dude. Retard. And now
During the
this guy,
presidential
really?
primary debates 4 years ago,
This guy's a
one outsider stood
homosexual. I mean,
alone
it'd be unthinkable to have this
and
guy on
said
the
in
stage.
public what
even,
most Americans
8
thought in
years
private.
ago.
It was 14 years after the start of the war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent. And yet no candidate could bring themselves to admit that something had gone badly wrong with American foreign policy. That the American voter, the American soldier, and the American taxpayer had all been let down. Except for one, Donald Trump. He called America's endless wars what they were, a disaster. The media was shocked because Donald Trump was running as a Republican. And yet he said out loud what we all knew, that American foreign policy was failing to make Americans safer.
The worst is that not only
After
is this
the
guy
end of the
gay,
Cold
but he's
War,
also a neocon.
Democrats
He wants
and
war with
Republicans
Iran.
in Washington bought into the illusion that the whole
So it's
world
kind of
would start
ironic.
to resemble America. And so they started to pursue unlimited globalization. They welcomed China into the World Trade Organization. They engaged in nation building in Afghanistan and tried to export democracy to Iraq. They signed a nuclear deal with Iran and a global climate agreement in Paris. But they didn't ground any of it in the interests of the average American. So for decades, while Washington politicians built a global system, American wages stagnated. Our great cities and industries were hollowed out. Entire communities were devastated. And our manufacturing plants were shipped off to China.
Isn't it incredible that
That's what
even
happened
without him getting
when
on the
Washington
microphone and
stopped
saying that
being
he's
the
gay,
capital
you
of
can
the
tell
United
he's gay.
States
You can
and
tell just
started
by
being the
these
capital
like
of the
micro
world.
expressions on his face.
As U.S.
The way that
ambassador
his
to
face
Germany, I had a
moves.
front row seat to Donald Trump's America First foreign policy.
Even look at the way he's
I
standing.
wish every American could see how President Trump negotiates on their behalf. I've watched President Trump
But that tells you all
charm
you
the
need to know,
Chancellor of Germany
That tells you everything about
while insisting that Germany pay its NATO obligations. I was proud to witness President Trump say to foreign leaders, I don't blame you for wanting America to pay for your security. I actually respect you for out-negotiating the presidents before me. But it stops with me. I won't let the American taxpayer be taken advantage of. Donald Trump's administration has
His
always
eyes, too,
made clear
totally soulless.
that our priority is the American
And he is like the
people's
epitome,
security.
by the way, of populist Inc.
That's the job of
Because
all
here's
leaders,
somebody who is
to put
the,
their people
the
first.
epitome. He's emblematic
And we've seen how this
of like the
strategy has
neocon,
succeeded.
neoliberal machine.
In 4 short years, Donald Trump has led
he's
even
trendy,
some
and he's
Washington
GQ, and
Democrats
he's
to agree on the Chinese threat,
I'm a faggot,
on
right?
trade deals that benefit America
But
first,
now he's going to try and peddle
on
the
alliances
Trump
that
populist
share
nationalist line.
responsibility.
But he doesn't get
In
it,
4 years,
obviously.
Donald Trump
he doesn't
didn't
get
start
it.
any new wars.
Always got to keep that in
He
mind.
brought troops home.
A lot of
He
people are going to
rebuilt
pretend
the
to be like
military
us or try to sound
and
like us,
signed
but
peace deals that make
I
Americans
mean, is this
safer.
guy fooling anybody? Does he fool
The
you? Do you
Washington
think this guy's a
elites want you to
champion
think
of the
this
people?
Kind of foreign
Give me a
policy
break.
is immoral. And so they call it nationalist. That tells you all you need to know. The D.C. crowd thinks when they call
You
Donald
are
Trump
the
a
D.C.
nationalist, they're
I love when they
insulting
do
him.
that. The D.C. crowd. Who the
As if
fuck
the
are you
American
then? Rick
president
Grinnell,
isn't supposed
National
to base
Security
foreign
Advisor,
policy on
Ambassador to
America's
Germany,
national
D.C.
interests.
crowd.
A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash.
That's
in
what
the
all
middle
these
of the
people do.
night.
These people literally
Well, you
live
see,
in D.C. and
President
have their whole
Trump also
lives
sent an
as career
aircraft in the middle of
politicians,
the night to deal with
populist
Iran.
Inc. types. And then they're like,
But
you know,
that
the
plane was
D.C.
on a different
Beltway
mission.
elite. It's like that.
An
You are
airstrike to
that.
take out
You
the
are
head of
them.
Iran's
Are
terror
those
machine who plotted the
of
deaths
which
of
you refer to
Americans.
right now.
But we also must be clear that when those who seek freedom take tremendous personal risk in places like Hong Kong, Tehran, or Minsk, there is no doubt who President Trump's administration supports. We will always stand with the people who fight for their God-given freedoms. Don't be fooled.
Look
The
at it,
Washington
man. It's just
establishment is
brutal.
trying to sell you on their
Humiliating.
candidate. Joe Biden was first elected to the Senate in 1972, 48 years ago. Well, it's actually the typical Washington story. Just this year,
This
22
sucks.
Democrats ran for president. They rejected all of the
It's funny too
outsiders
because
and
for a
nominated
fact
the
he's not even like
ultimate
flamboyant
Washington
or
insider,
engaging or anything, you know?
someone they had to pull out of
It's
retirement.
just dry.
Every time Joe
But that's
Biden
the
offers
future.
a new
Dry,
idea, you should ask
queer,
yourself, why didn't he try
fake,
that over the last 48 years?
Too clean.
Today, the Democrats blame a global pandemic that started in China on President Trump. And they still blame Russia for Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016. As acting
It's in the
director of
mouth. You could
national
literally see it
intelligence,
in the mouth.
I saw the
My
Democrats'
theory on
entire
gay
case
people
for
is
Russian
that,
collusion.
like, the way they
And what I
talk
saw
and
made
their
me
whole
sick
like
to my stomach.
affect, it's
The Obama
because it's
Biden
like how a
administration
woman
secretly
talks.
launched a
And what
surveillance
that
operation
is
on the Trump campaign
they're emulating the
and
behaviors of
silenced
their
the
mother.
many
That's
brave
always been my
intelligence
theory.
officials who spoke up against it.
And you can literally see it in the way that his mouth moves
presented
like a
bogus
woman. It's a
information
subtle
as
thing,
facts.
but if you pay close
They lied to
attention,
judges.
it's like gay
Then they
people,
classified anything
their
that
facial
undermined their
expressions,
case.
their like
And
vocal
after Donald
pattern,
Trump won
it's like
the
a woman's.
election, when they should have continued the American tradition of helping the president-elect transition into the White House, they tried instead to undercut him even more. Former Vice President Joe Biden asked intelligence officials to uncover the hidden information on President Trump's incoming national security advisor 3 weeks before the inauguration. That's the Democrats. Between surveillance, classifications, leaks, and puppet candidates, they never want the American people to know who's actually calling the shots. But with Donald Trump, you always know exactly who is in charge. Because the answer is you. You're in charge. Not lobbyists, not special interests, not
we're in
warmongers
charge,
or China
everybody. Yeah,
sympathizers
the
or
10,000 people watching.
globalization
Yeah,
fanatics.
we're in charge right now.
With Donald Trump and Mike
do you
Pence
feel
in
in
the White
charge,
House,
right?
The boss is the
like
American
Bain said,
people.
do you feel in charge?
President Trump rightly calls
I don't
his
feel
foreign
in charge.
policy America First. America First does not advance the interests of one group of Americans at the expense of another.
Yeah, except for Jews.
It has no bias about
and
red
blacks.
or blue, educated or not educated, urban or rural. America First is simply the belief that politicians should focus on the equality and dignity of every American, and that this duty is fulfilled by promoting the safety and wealth of the American people above all else. That's America First. That's the Trump doctrine. And that, my friends, is 4 more years.
That was so bad. Does he think that's a good speech? These people can't speak for shit, any of them. And I'm not even like a pro or anything. I mean, I guess I'm technically a pro,
thanks for this land,
because I do this for a living, but
and those who defend it.
But I'm just like I consider myself like a student of public speaking, or that kind of extemporaneous speaking, because I've still got a lot to learn. Obviously, I have a lot of talent, and I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, I've done it a lot, I should say.
Not only for our people, which that flag
But I look at that and all these speeches, and I'm like, these people aren't. They just don't. They can't do it. They don't have it. They don't have the X factor.
And the pursuit of happiness, equality under the law, government by the people. These are the threads that bind us together as Americans. For
But that was really rough to watch.
But of belief.
That's almost over. Only a half hour left.
Flag has sometimes been battered and beaten, faded and forgotten.
These commercials I like a lot better. Because, in all the conventions, they'll have speeches, and then they juxtapose that with commercials, something like a commercial. And the Democratic Party, all the commercials were just very generic, and I don't know. I mean, I guess this is pretty generic, but
there are new leaders.
They were sort of, I don't know, uninteresting, bland, meandering. Maybe I just feel differently because this is meant to appeal to people like me, right? I guess maybe the Democrat commercials are meant to appeal to leftists, and this is like the exact same thing, but meant to appeal to right-wing people. So maybe I'm just biased, but
commentary, guarding our American ideals. But much like the man who inspired him, Mike didn't grow up a Republican.
I hate Reagan, man. I'm so sick of the Reagan worship.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
His grandfather was a hard-working Irish immigrant who drove a bus to provide for his family. His father served our nation bravely in the Korean War and earned a Bronze Star. Mike was the third of 6 children, raised here in Columbus, Indiana, with a cornfield in his backyard.
The foundation of America is freedom, and the foundation of freedom is faith.
It was in this small Indiana town his foundation of faith in Jesus Christ was laid.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
And from that conviction,
Mike Pence isn't like
and service to others.
Great or anything, but not as bad as what could have been in the White House. Look at all the people that have betrayed the president in the White House.
I'm a Christian, a conservative,
from
and a Republican.
Christian Nielsen to Kelly, Reince Priebus,
the host of a statewide conservative
H.R.
radio
McMaster,
show,
John
and
Bolton.
then
I mean, there's a lot of people
in
that
Washington,
sabotaged the White House,
defender of freedom.
that went on to write exposés, right, and to directly go to war with the president politically. So, out of everybody that could have been the vice president, Mike Pence, I mean, he hasn't been a disaster, but
Mike earned the trust of the
he's
people
not,
of
he's
his
not
state
anything to
and became the
celebrate. I'll
50th
just say
governor of
that.
Indiana.
He's brought in
He
some
delivered
rough
the
people.
largest state tax cut in
Nick
Indiana
Ayers
history,
is one of them,
expanded school
and he's
choice,
pretty close with
led
Nikki
the
Haley.
country
They share a lot of the same staff.
more Hoosiers get to
And
work
Mike
than
Pence
ever
is just a
before.
very conventional, standard Republican. He is not a revolutionary like Trump. No one is a revolutionary like Trump. You know, so that's why I'm being a little bit. I'm not as tough on him, but
believe will be the next vice president of the United States.
Let's just say I'm not going to be rooting
Mike
for him in
Pence.
2024.
As our vice president,
I'll just say that.
Mike Pence has held tightly to those threads of freedom.
Because this guy's just like your average evangelical constitutionalist, small government, limited government conservative.
He is solid as a rock. He's been a fantastic vice president.
And now, in these uncertain days, we
Probably a
are
good guy,
equipped
but
to overcome. In times of trouble, some call to retreat from those ideals.
But he's obviously not
Americans
Trump.
throughout
Nobody is.
history
But I mean,
have
I don't
lifted
even think he's
up
got the
triumph,
same politics really
hope,
as Trump.
and resilience. Mike Pence knows those stars and stripes do not merely represent who we are, but more importantly, what we can be. As the sun rises again on America, we lift our eyes to those lofty truths, to guide our country and every one of us to greater heights. In this land of the free and home of the brave. Vice President Mike Pence.
Yeah, we're supposed to feel better. We're supposed to feel great about Mike Pence, but I'm not that excited.
Please welcome the Vice President.
He's probably going to speak for a fucking half hour, and it's going to be brutal.
Accompanied by the
It's going to
second
be brutal
lady,
to watch.
Mrs. Karen Pence.
So I'm looking forward to it. I love it. Can't wait. I thought Trump was supposed to speak every night. They said he was supposed to be speaking at the convention every night, but he's not. Clearly, he's good, boring Mike. It's good they actually have a crowd, though. I will say that's a huge improvement over
Good evening,
the
America.
DNC.
It's an honor to speak to you tonight from the hallowed grounds of Fort McHenry, the site of the very battle that inspired the words of our national anthem. Those words have inspired this land of heroes in every generation since. It was on this site 206 years ago when our young republic heroically withstood a ferocious naval bombardment from the most powerful empire on earth. They came to crush our revolution, to divide our nation, and to end the American experiment. The heroes who held this fort took their stand for life, liberty, freedom, and the American flag. And those ideals have defined our nation. But they were hardly ever mentioned at last week's Democratic National Convention. Instead, Democrats spent 4 days attacking America. Joe Biden said that we were living through a season of darkness. But as President Trump said, where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness.
I like that. That's kind of implicit, isn't it?
In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America, who believes in the boundless capacity of the American people to meet any challenge, defeat any foe, and defend the freedoms we hold dear. America needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
Yes, totally. We need 100 more years.
Before I go further, allow me to say a word to the families and communities in the path of Hurricane Laura. Our prayers are with you tonight, and our administration is working closely with authorities in the states that will be impacted.
Pence is a great speaker.
FEMA has mobilized resources
I've
and
always
supplies
enjoyed his
for those in
speeches. I
harm's
mean,
way.
sometimes it's a little generic.
This is a serious storm.
But he's
And we
he's
urge
better than
all
what we've
those in
seen
the
for the
affected
past few
areas to
days.
heed state and local authorities. Stay safe. And know that we'll be with you every step of the way to support, rescue, respond, and recover in the days and weeks ahead. That's what Americans do. Four years ago, I answered the call to join this ticket because I knew that Donald Trump had the leadership and the vision to make America great again. And for the last 4 years, I've watched this president endure unrelenting attacks, but get up every day and fight to keep the promises that he made to the American people.
True.
So with gratitude for the confidence President Donald Trump has placed in me, the support of our Republican Party, and the grace of God, I humbly accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States.
Nice. That's good. Okay. Pretty good so far. I'm enjoying it.
Serving the American people in this office has been a journey I never expected. It's a journey that would not have been possible without the support of my family, beginning with my wonderful wife, Karen. She's a lifelong school teacher, an incredible mother to our 3 children. And she is one outstanding Second Lady of the United States. I'm so proud of you. And we couldn't be more proud of our 3 children. Marine Corps Captain Michael J. Pence and his wife, Sarah. Our daughter, Charlotte Pence Bond, an author, and the wife to Lieutenant Henry Bond, who is currently deployed and serving our nation in the United States Navy. And our youngest, a recent law school grad, our daughter Audrey, and her fiancé, who, like so many other Americans, had to delay their wedding this summer. But we can't wait for Dan to be a part of our family.
That's wholesome.
In addition, my wife and kids, the person who shaped my life the most is also with us tonight. My mom, Nancy.
Yeah, nice. Aw, look at that. That's so nice.
She is the daughter of an Irish immigrant, 87 years young. And Mom follows politics very closely. And the truth be told, sometimes I think I'm actually her second favorite candidate on the Trump-Pence ticket.
That's
Thank
nice.
you, Mom.
That's nice.
I love you.
We love that. We love the moms. We love the families, right?
Over the past 4 years, I've had the privilege to work closely with our president. I've seen him when the cameras are off. Americans see President Trump in lots of different ways. But there's no doubt how President Trump sees America. He sees America for what it is. A nation that has done more good in this world than any other. A nation that deserves far more gratitude than grievance. And if you want a president
like that,
who falls silent when our heritage is demeaned or insulted, he's not your man.
Yes, yes, yes. Epic.
Now, we came by very different routes to this
That was
partnership.
awesome.
And some people think we're a little bit different. But you know, I've learned a few things watching him. Watching him deal with all that we've been through over the past 4 years. He does things in his own way, on his own terms. Not much gets past him. And when he has an opinion, he's liable to share it.
This
He's
is
certainly
good.
kept things interesting. But more importantly, President Donald Trump has kept his word to the American people.
I'm liking the speech. I think Pence is very charming.
In a city known for talkers, President Trump is a doer. And few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office. 4 years ago, we inherited a military hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. ISIS controlled a land mass twice the size of Pennsylvania, and we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values, freedom of religion and the right to life. That's when President Donald Trump stepped in. And from day one, he kept his word.
Epic.
We rebuilt our military. This president signed the largest increase in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan and created the first new branch of our armed forces in 70 years, the United States Space Force.
Epic. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
And with that renewed energy, we also returned American astronauts to space on an American rocket for the first time in nearly 10 years.
That is something that I really like.
And after years of scandal
It's Faustian.
that robbed our veterans of the care that you earned in the uniform of the United States, President Trump kept his word again. We reformed the VA, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. Our armed forces and our veterans fill this land of heroes. And many join us tonight in this historic fort.
Very good optics,
Tonight
too.
we have among us 4 recipients of the Medal of Honor.
Great setting, outdoors, flags, the
6
fort,
recipients of the Purple Heart.
a live audience, the
A
veterans.
Gold Star mother of a gallant Navy SEAL. And wounded warriors from Soldier Strong, a group that serves our injured veterans every day. We are honored by your presence, and we thank you for your service.
Ugh. Nice. This is good. This is good. Nice.
With heroes just like these,
Didn't really
we defend
catch
this
on, but
nation
that's
every
okay.
day. And under this commander-in-chief, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil. Last year, American armed forces took the last inch of ISIS territory, crushed their caliphate, and took down their leader without one American casualty.
Nice. See, we like that. We like that.
And I was there when President Trump gave the order to take out the world's most dangerous terrorist. Iran's top general will never harm another American because Qasem Soleimani is gone.
Don't know how I feel about that, but that was good, strong.
My fellow Americans, you deserve to know. Joe Biden criticized President Trump following those decisions. Decisions to rid the world of two terrorist leaders. But it's not surprising, because history records that Joe Biden even opposed the operation that took down Osama bin Laden. It's no wonder that the Secretary of Defense under the Obama-Biden administration once said that Joe Biden has been, and I quote, wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades.
Nice.
So we've stood up to our enemies, and we've stood with our allies. Like when President Trump kept his word and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the State of Israel, setting the stage for the first Arab country to recognize Israel in 26 years. Closer to home,
that's great.
we appointed more than 200 conservative judges to our federal courts. We supported the right to life and all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, including the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms.
You knew that was going to happen. Whatever.
And when it came to the economy, President Trump kept his word and then some. We passed the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration ever had. We unleashed American energy and fought for free and fair trade. And in our first 3 years, businesses large and small created more than 7 million good-paying jobs, including 500,000 manufacturing jobs all across America. Our country became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. Unemployment rates for African Americans and Hispanic Americans hit the lowest level ever recorded. And on this 100th anniversary of the woman's right to vote, I'm proud to report that under President Donald Trump, we achieved the lowest unemployment rate for women in 65 years. And more Americans working than ever before. In our first 3 years, we built the greatest economy in the world. We made America great again.
We got it out of the way. Painful, but expected, and it's over.
And then the coronavirus struck from China. Before the first case of the coronavirus spread within the United States, the president took unprecedented action and suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, that action saved untold American lives.
True.
And I can tell you firsthand, it bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. President Trump marshaled the full resources of our federal government from the outset. He directed us to forge a seamless partnership with governors across America in both political parties. We partnered with private industry to reinvent testing and produce supplies that were distributed to hospitals around the land. Today, we're conducting more than 800,000 tests a day, And we have coordinated the delivery of billions of pieces of personal protective equipment for our amazing doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers.
I will say my one criticism is that Mike Pence kind of has like one tempo, one style.
We saw to the manufacture of 100,000
really
ventilators in 100
It's not very
days.
dynamic, is what I'm saying.
And
Strong,
no one who
but it's not
required a
dynamic.
ventilator was ever denied a ventilator in the United States.
I'm a very dynamic speaker. That's why you can listen to me for hours
We
and
built
hours and hours.
hospitals, surged military medical personnel, and enacted an economic rescue package that saved 50 million American jobs. As we speak, we're developing a growing number of treatments known as therapeutics, including convalescent plasma, that are saving lives all across America. Now, last week, Joe Biden said that no miracle is coming. Well, what Joe doesn't seem to understand is that America is a nation of miracles.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm proud to report that we're on track to have the world's first safe, effective coronavirus vaccine by the end of this year.
Nice.
After all the sacrifice.
I'm not getting it, though. I'm
in
not
this
fucking
year
getting
like
it.
no other.
No way.
All the
I
hardship.
don't get vaccinated for anything, and especially
We're finding
not that.
our way forward again.
I'm not getting a fucking microchip
tonight-
AIDS vaccine.
Our hearts are with all the families who've lost loved ones.
No way. Not
and
me.
have family members still struggling with serious illness.
I'll bribe my doctor so I can, you know, if they make it
In this
mandatory.
country, we mourn with those who mourn. We grieve with those who grieve. And this night, I know that millions of Americans will pause and pray for God's comfort for each of you. You know, our country doesn't get through such a time unless its people find strength within. The response of doctors, nurses, first responders, farmers, factory workers, truckers, and everyday Americans who put the health and safety of their neighbors first has been nothing short of heroic.
Yeah, the TikTok nurses, really great.
Veronica Sayez put on her scrubs every day. Day in and day out,
I'm
went
bored.
to work in
I'm
one of
bored
New York
now.
City's busiest
I
hospitals.
am officially bored.
She stayed on the job, put in the long hours until it was done, and then got back in her neighborhood and helped neighbors and friends struggling. Her brother William is a New York City firefighter.
The problem is it's so slow.
And they're both emblematic of
it's
heroes
so
all across this
slow.
country. They're with us tonight. And I say to them and to all of you,
That's how it has to
you
be.
have
'cause
earned the admiration
people are
of the
stupid,
American
but
people,
sheesh.
and we will always be grateful for your service and care.
Yeah.
Thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. And we're saving lives. And we're opening up America again. Because of the strong foundation that President Trump poured in our first 3 years, we've already gained back 9.3 million jobs in the last 3 months alone.
Wow.
And we're not just opening up America again. We're opening up America's schools.
It's like he wants every
I'm proud
line
to
to be like a
report that my
mic
wife,
drop, you
Karen,
know, or an applause line. That's
that
what makes
school
it
teacher
slow.
I've been married to will be returning to her classroom next week And so to all of our heroic teachers and faculty,
it's like in a fighting game, and he only knows how to do like a primary attack.
We're going to stay with you every
he
step of
only
the
presses
way.
A, he doesn't press B. He just likes these cheap, like, zinger, one-liner things. Oh, schools?
In the days ahead, as we open up
They're
America
open.
again,
Trump?
I promise you.
He'll give you his opinion.
We'll continue to put the health of America first.
Trump's not, you know,
And as we work to bring
our
this
heritage is
economy
under
back,
attack. Trump's going to
we
do
all have a
something
role
about
to
it. You
play.
know, it's just like, and it's
We all
this,
have a
and
choice to
then it's
make.
that way. Press
On
B.
November 3rd,
Press
you need
B.
to ask
Wind
yourself,
up. So you got to do a charging
who do you
attack,
trust
you
to
know?
rebuild this economy? A career politician who presided over the slowest economic
Got to be like
recovery
Samus.
since
Got
the
to
Great
charge it
Depression?
up, you know, hold B.
Or a proven leader who created the greatest economy
whatever.
in the world?
You know, whatever
The
you
choice is clear.
name.
To bring America all the way back.
Go on a little bit,
We need
and
4 more
then
years of
after
President
the
Donald
build
Trump
up, then you drop
in
the
the White
hammer, and it's like boom, you know. Then you get a big applause line. It's much more effect. But he's just going for ramp up, ramp down, ramp up, ramp down.
My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing. But in the midst of this global pandemic, just as our nation had begun to recover, we've seen violence and chaos in the streets of our major cities. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Tearing down statues is not free speech. And those who do so will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
See, like, you could have done so much more with that.
Last
You have to
week,
build
Joe
tension.
Biden
That's
didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across
I'm glad he's
this
talking
country.
about it. Don't get me wrong, but
So
just
let me
from
be
a
clear.
delivery perspective, I'm being hypercritical.
The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
This doesn't do it for me. Sorry. Substance is good. I'm loving the substance so far of the speech.
President Trump and I know that the men and women that put on the uniform of law enforcement are the best of us. Every day.
How about streamers?
When they walk out that door, they consider our
How about
lives more
dissidents,
important than their own.
groypers? I think groypers are the best of us.
People like Dave Patrick Underwood, an officer in the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Protective Service, who was shot and
People
killed
like Patrick
during the
Casey.
riots in Oakland, California.
People like
Dave's
Baked
heroism
Alaska.
is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. And we're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela.
What if he
Angela,
said
we
that?
say
What
to
if he
you,
said, Baked
we
Alaska?
grieve with your family.
And yes, it
And
is
America
the year
will
of
never
Baked
forget
Alaska.
Or fail to honor Officer Dave Patrick Underwood.
A patriot like Tim G&A from Phoenix, Arizona.
The
He doesn't
American
always
people
like
know
to wear his mask.
We don't
Everyone
have
laughs.
to choose between supporting law
But
enforcement
he loves this country.
and standing with our African American neighbors to improve the quality of their lives, education, jobs, and safety. And from the first days of this administration, we've done both. And we will keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American and minority communities across this land for 4 more years. Joe Biden says that America is systemically racist and that law enforcement in America has, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that are leading to violence in America's cities. The hard truth is, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America. And under President Trump, we will always stand with those who stand on the thin blue line, and we're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever.
See, what's so based about Trump is he really doesn't talk like a politician, in the sense that Mike Pence will say, in his own words, and I quote, he said they have implicit bias. Trump is like, they're going to take your guns, and they said it. They said they're coming to get you, and they're going to kill you. You know, like that's, you need that. We want that. You need that urgency.
But last week,
hyperbole.
Democrats didn't
he understands
very much
rhetoric
about their
better than
agenda.
politicians. He just gets it.
And if I were them, I wouldn't either. I mean, Bernie Sanders did tell his followers that Joe Biden would be the most liberal president in modern times. In fact,
you look at what's happening, and
said,
they're doing it. Then they're coming to get you.
And I quote, that many of the ideas
and Pence is like,
he fought for,
according to the New York Times,
that just a few
when
years
he was
ago
asked,
were
he
considered
said yes.
radical.
No, it's what they
now
said. They
mainstream
said.
in the Democratic Party.
But that's tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get that.
At the
from Trump.
root of their
Something
agenda
cool like that.
is the belief that America is driven by envy, not aspiration. That millions of Americans harbor ill will toward our neighbors instead of loving our neighbors as ourselves. The radical left believes that the federal government must be involved in every aspect of our lives to correct those American wrongs. They believe the federal government needs to dictate how Americans live, how we should work, how we should raise our children, and in the process deprive our people of freedom, prosperity, and security. Their agenda is based on government control. Our agenda is based on freedom.
It's another one of those diminishing return one-liners.
Where President Trump cut taxes, Joe Biden wants to
That's
raise
what it is,
taxes
diminishing
by nearly
returns.
$4 trillion.
The first time we were like, yeah, and
where
then
this president achieved
the 50th
energy
time,
independence for the United States.
we want freedom.
Joe Biden would abolish fossil fuels,
Great, yeah, freedom,
end
awesome.
fracking,
How about order?
and impose a regime of climate
How about
change
power for our
regulations that would
people? I want
drastically
power for
increase
our
the cost
people.
of living for working families.
That should be the
Where we
rallying
fought
cry:
for
is
free and
power,
fair
not
trade,
freedom. We
and
want
this
power,
president stood up to China
so we
and
can
ended
make
the
the
era
country
of
the way we want it
economic
to be.
surrender. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China. He wants to repeal all the tariffs that are leveling the playing field for American workers.
I mean, we have freedom. I want.
he actually
We want to
criticized
rule.
President
We want to
Trump for
rule this
suspending
country,
all travel to China at the outset of this pandemic.
and not for its own sake, obviously.
Joe
but
Biden is for open borders,
so we can fucking secure the
sanctuary
cities and get rid of the fucking
free
drag
lawyers and
queens
health
and
care
all
for
that,
illegal immigrants.
and the immigrants and
President
build the
Trump,
wall. Duh.
He secured our border
Kill the drug dealers.
and
Kill the
built
pedophiles.
nearly 300 miles
That's what we
of
want.
that border wall. Joe Biden wants to end school choice. And President Trump believes that every parent should have the right to choose where their children go to school, regardless of their income or area code.
I hate when they say that.
President Trump has stood without apology for the sanctity of human life every day of this administration. Joe Biden, he supports taxpayer funding of abortion right up to the moment of birth. When you consider their agenda, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. The choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. Last week, Joe Biden said democracy's on the ballot. And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot.
If democracy was on the ballot, I would vote against democracy.
But so are things far more fundamental.
Put democracy on the ballot. I will vote for the other thing. I'll vote for anything else.
Not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or more Democrat.
I think I'll have
the choice in this election
dictatorship, right-wing
is whether
dictatorship.
America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the unalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave them a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. We stand at a crossroads, America. President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline. But we're not going to let it happen. President Donald Trump believes in America and in the goodness of the American people, the boundless potential of every American to live out their dreams in freedom. And every day, President Trump has been fighting to protect the promise of America. Every day, our president has been fighting to expand the reach of the American dream.
Boring. Bored.
Every day, President Donald Trump has been fighting for you. And now it's our turn to fight for him.
Yeah.
On this night in the company of heroes, I'm deeply grateful. Deeply grateful for the privilege of serving as vice president of this great nation.
Remember when Trump said,
and to have the
never
opportunity
ever
to serve again. I pray to be worthy of it, and I will give that duty all that's in me. In the year 2020, the American people have had more than our share of challenges. But thankfully, we have a president with the toughness, energy, and resolve to see us through. Now, those traits actually run in our national character.
On and on and on. Just
as the invading force learned on approach to this fort in September of 1814. Against fierce and sustained bombardment, our young country was defended by heroes, not so different from those who are with us tonight. The enemy was counting on them to quit.
I'm lost. I'm bored.
But they never did.
My eyes are glazed over.
Fort McHenry held.
Brain hurts. I'm a millennial
and
Zoomer.
When morning came,
I want stimulation. I want Twitter. I want posts. I want music. I want TikTok. I want TikTok music playing. I want dancing. I want TikTok dancing.
My fellow Americans,
I want a Starbucks.
We're going through a time of testing.
I want a Vine. I want a 7-second Vine. I'm 22, and I want a fucking Vine speech, not this.
Will see. Our flag is still there today. That star-spangled banner still waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave. From these hallowed grounds, American patriots in generations gone by did their part to defend freedom. Now it's our turn. So let's run the race marked out for us. Let's fix our eyes on Old Glory and all she represents. Let's fix our eyes on this land of heroes and let their courage inspire. And let's fix our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith and our freedom. And never forget that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom.
Based.
that means freedom always wins. My fellow Americans, thank you for the honor of addressing you tonight and the opportunity to run and serve again as your vice president. I leave here today inspired. And I leave here today more convinced than ever that we will do in our time, as Americans have done throughout our long and storied past. We will defend our freedom and our way of life. We will re-elect our president and principled Republican leaders across the land. And with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Again.
Nice.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Okay. All right, well, it's all over. Thank God. Fucking boring. Trump? Will we get Trump? No Roman. Do not Roman salute. Do not Roman salute. Whatever you do. I want you so bad. I would love nothing more than to Roman salute my king, my emperor. Yes, yes, yes. Yes! The King of America. I'm not even gonna Roman salute. I'll just give a regular salute. I'll just give a regular salute, not a Roman salute like they did to Hitler. I will not do that. Epic check. He's just a fucking king. He's the king of the universe. He's the king of Earth. It's so refreshing because he's so epic. And Mike Pence is fucking boring. And Trump is so awesome. Look at him. He's orange. And he's like 10 feet tall and his wife is a supermodel.
Trace Atkins.
Oh, no. Just let Trump talk.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's
I thought he was going to sing country music.
light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
That was good. I thought he was going to come out and do like country music. I don't know why I thought that. Because he's a country artist. I thought he was going to come out and do like a concert or something. But that was good. So now is Trump going to talk or what? I'll salute Trump, you know, and the flag I'll salute too, I guess, but I am loyal to the president. I am loyal to Donald Trump personally. He is the revolutionary leader. And we are the revolutionary core. And we answer personally to Donald Trump. Not the White House, not the country. Personally. Say the word, Trump. Say the word. I'll be out there. I guess he's not talking. All right, so is that it? Can we start reading the super chats? I can't wait for him tomorrow. He's the only one who's been, you know, who's engaging out of everything in the past 3 days of the convention. Him and Melania are just so beautiful as a couple. He looks so vivacious. Everybody, you know, they neg him for the spray tan, but the spray tan makes him look good. The spray tan, it's counterintuitive, but it makes him look much more vivacious. If he didn't have the spray tan, he would look really old, like Joe Biden. You know, and you think about it, would you rather be called orange and look kind of silly, but look like Trump, or not be orange and look like Joe Biden? Same with the hair. You know, Trump could have a very conventional hairstyle. He'd probably look like Joe Biden. Or he could have a, you know, kind of a wacky hairstyle, but he looks like that. You know? It's very calculated. So the hair, the tan, people just don't understand the, like, you know, the calculation there, but it makes a lot of sense. To me, at least. I think it makes a lot of sense. And he's like, what, Irish and German? They don't age very well. They look really rough when they get old. Like Joe Biden, you know, he looks terrible. And I'm sure that Trump would look like, you know, shriveled up. So, anyway. Okay, well, I don't think they're speaking. I think that's probably it. So I'm going to get into the super chats then. So if that's over, I'm going to move over and take a look at our super chats. And and if they start doing stuff again, I'll put the headset back on. Tell me, by the way, if you can hear me out of this microphone. Let me know if there's sound or if not. But okay. But I think that's it. I think it's done. So might as well move on. We'll read the super chats. So we'll see what you guys are saying, what you guys are up to. Yeah, I mean, today wasn't terrible like yesterday. Yesterday was horrible, and I wasn't here to cover it, but I watched it, and it was just the worst. You know, like I said a moment ago, or earlier tonight, you had the prayer for Jacob Blake by a Mexican female pastor, the bank robber that was pardoned, the immigration ceremony, the Pompeo live from Israel. It was just, from start to finish, it was brutal. But tonight wasn't. It was probably the best night so far, I would say. Probably had the least bad stuff and the most good stuff, is what I would say. Because yesterday was very similar to the first day in that a lot of it was good. Maybe half was good, half was bad. But the stuff that was bad yesterday was really bad. Today, it was mostly good. And the stuff that was bad wasn't horrible. That's sort of my take. I know that's not a very technical analysis, but that's sort of just what I surmise after just completing it. Is that, and the keynote speaker was good. The Lara Trump, I thought, was maybe the better speakers out of the Trump kids so far, or out of the Trump family. I thought Rick Grinnell was okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like Rick Grinnell, but I thought the speech, although it was dry, the content of the speech wasn't offensive to me. And the Mike Pence speech, I thought was the best, like, concluding or closing speech so far. I thought it was a very strong speech. Really didn't have a lot of cringe in there. You know, like Nikki Haley was brutal. But Mike Pence, I thought, was similar to the Trump kids in terms of substance. It was mostly good. You have to have the obligatory low black unemployment, the fucking, you know, embassy in Israel and all that. Like, we knew that was coming. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty strong. So this was probably the best night so far. And I've gone over what I don't like. I don't like all the diversity, the tokenism, you know, the very obvious and deliberate inserting of black speakers to pander, of course, to blacks and BLM. I don't care for that. I don't care for a lot of the overall tone and the appeals that just sound very conventional, sound very mainstream, and not in a good way, like establishment. So, but overall, not a ton of complaints for tonight. I think tomorrow will probably be the best because you'll have Trump speaking tomorrow. So, you know, hopefully it'll be the strongest night. And, you know, who knows how much the RNC really impacts. I don't think the RNC is going to hurt the Republicans, but it's really just about persuading Republicans to vote. You know, that's the thing. Is I don't know if, you know, this RNC, even though it was rough, I mean, rough couple of nights, I don't think this is going to make or break the election, but it is just another opportunity when you've got more than 20 million people watching to make another sort of last pitch, and not like, you know, the election's still a couple months away, but one of these closing pitches. It's one of these big viewership nights when you kind of get a chance to, you know, maybe tip it in a little bit, and I don't know if it was super effective, so that's how you got to think about it. I'm voting for the president. You all have to vote for the president. If you watch this show, you just have to vote for Trump. I'm not going to let you not vote for Trump. You can't not vote for Trump. And you have to do it. I'm telling you, you have to do it. Not a choice. It's not a choice. I'm voting for Trump. You're voting for Trump. And if you don't vote for Trump, you're a traitor to America. You're a traitor to your race. You're a traitor to your people. There's no good reason to not vote for Trump. There just isn't. Sorry, but there's not. Oh, well, he's shilling for Israel or blacks or whatever. Not a good reason. Not a good enough reason. Immigration's been cut in half. Walls going up. Okay? So, we've been over this before, but you have to vote for Trump. I'm just putting that out there. I know I see some people in the live chat are like, oh, cringe, this is cringe. I agree. I think it is cringe. But it doesn't matter. If Joe Biden gets in, he's going to shoot me in the head. ATF is going to kick down my door, or blacks will, and they'll kill me. And if the blacks do it, the government will allow it. They won't even charge them for killing me. So you have to protect me. You have to protect me and protect yourself. Okay, but I'm going to read our super chats here, and we'll see what we got. We'll see what we got in here. In our super chat. So feel free to send in some super chats. You know, I was about a half hour in, and I'm like, oh, little light on the super chats here tonight. 3-hour show, you know, wall-to-wall coverage of the RNC, and it's like, wow, little light on the super chats. You know, the lemon feature is still available. Just to keep in mind, everybody, for all the freeloaders out there. No, I'm kidding, of course. But let me just put something on in the background like we usually do, so it's not, you know, stuck on the same screen. Okay, so let's start. Let's read through. We've got Baphomet Groiper. I don't like that name. Don't be Baphomet. Don't be a demon. Don't summon that in my live chat. So Groiper says, I can't believe you retweeted Darren Beattie saying he's waiting for a sleeping giant to wake the world with his ferociousness. Tell him to quit LARPing. That guy's an embarrassment, and so are you. Okay, so now I know why he's Baphomet. The guy's literally Satan-possessed, probably working for the devil for real. I thought he was just being ironic, and it's not funny if it's ironic, but he's actually cringe. I don't think that's LARPing. Of course that's not LARPing. I think that, I don't know what he was referring to. I'm going to give him some plausible deniability, but the way that I read it is like the American people, and specifically white America. And, you know, I understand, and I've said it myself, the idea that America is probably beyond saving or salvaging
in its current form, in its entirety, and I get that. I understand that our population is very devolved and debased, and all the generations, they're corrupted and they've been made to be weak, and I understand that. But you have to understand that what that's getting at is our like genetics. At least, this is my take on it. I don't know about Darren, but my take on it is that if we as a people ever decided to get serious, it would be game over because of who we are, because of what's in our gene code. And I don't know if that's what he meant, but that's what I believe. That's ultimately why I'm optimistic, because whenever we as a people decide to turn things around, we will be able to. I think we will be able to no matter what. Because if you look at our track record in the past 500 years, what we've overcome and the odds we've beaten, or even in the last 5,000 years, I think that we're capable of miraculous and incredible things. I don't think that's a LARP. It might be a LARP to suggest that, like, Republicans are going to go out and the silent majority. Like, I don't know if I buy that, but, when I think about this ferocious beast waking up, I'm thinking about our people. And when we decide to wake up and take care of business, I don't think anything on earth can stop us. I think, to me, that's the message. I don't think that's a LARP. It might be a LARP if you're talking strictly in a partisan sense, in like the Sean Hannity way, but I don't think Darren's talking like that way. I'm definitely not, amplifying it like that. So, but he's an embarrassment, and so are you. Okay, yeah, whatever. Thanks for the money, right? People pay me $5 to say, you suck. Okay, whatever, right? Yeet says, imagine streaming the DNC, but not the RNC. Well, I'm streaming the RNC, so I don't know what you're talking about. Pinkerton says, it's Weezer Wednesday. Press W to wheeze. Okay. Polish American Groiper says, Nibba pull up. Think he G.I. Joe man. 556 turn him G.I. Jane. That pinhead leftist might have had the Glock, but okay. Shut up, dude. Dr. Zoomer, just shut up. Fuck off. Why put a super chat that's just straight shit? Just straight garbage. Like, why? Do you think that's funny? It's not funny. It just sucks. I don't want to read that. You make me sound like an idiot saying your dumb message. Okay? Sorry, but can we try a little harder? Can we be a little better, please? Polish American Groiper. Sheesh. Imagine calling yourself Polish and then embarrassing your whole... Okay. Now I'm just laying it on a little thick. Sorry. But, it'd be one thing if it was like TTS. If you did TTS, I'd probably just roll my eyes. But when you send it as text, I know we don't have TTS, but when I have to read it, it's like, now I'm embarrassed to have to read it. Now you make me feel bad about myself. And then that's when I get mad. So, okay, anyway. Dr. Zoomer says, hey, Nick, do you believe Trump not going hard yet on riots is because of rhetoric from Cernovich and company that it helps him in swing states? Or is it his advisors talking him off the ledge? God bless. I don't know if it's calculated or not, actually. Here's the thing, though. You can't have it both ways. I think you have to commit. You either have to let them destroy the cities, and of course, then voters react to that and say, we have to have Trump. Only Trump can secure the cities. Or you clean it up. You clean it up fast and extremely, effectively, and it's like there was never a riot. And then people say, wow, Trump has made the city safe. But what you cannot do is have them destroy the city for a few weeks, and then you send in a few dozen troops, and they like kind of clean it up, and then they leave, and then it keeps going. That's the worst of both worlds. It's like you fail. Like, it's horrible, and you tried, and it didn't work. You know what I mean? So it's either like, my hands are tied. You're going to have to vote for me to give me the mandate to clean it up. You either have to do that and like scare them into voting, or you have them voting out of gratitude by cleaning it up and demonstrating competence. But to let it like burn through for a few weeks and then do this haphazard job of like kind of doing something, like, it's just terrible. And that's what I think they're going to do, is they're going to clean it up maybe in like September and basically have a month before the election where nothing's on fire. And then it's going to, and then people are not going to the polls because of it in the same way. Do you know what I mean? So they got to choose. And what would be better is for them to just let them riot, let them do it, burn through, Because at this point, it's gone on for so long, it's almost just like embarrassing to try and put a stop to it. So I would say they made their bed, let them sleep in it. If you want me to do something about it, renew my mandate to restore law and order. That's what I think is wise. I don't know why he's not acting. I honestly think it's just incompetence on the part of the administration. Albert, or sabotage. Albert says, what if Kyle Rittenhouse was a fan of your show and he decided to head over to Kenosha because you skipped your show? I don't think that's true because he's a Boogaloo guy. He struck me as like a libertarian, basically, because he was actually rendering aid to one of the protesters. So I don't think that's likely. Moist John says, if they are dead set on getting the Hispanic vote, then they need to stop the We're Not Racist game and just make a supercut of burned Hispanic businesses. Also, Kyle outdoing $5K set up booglarpers with just a bargain bin AR and sling. Yeah, so I do want to talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I didn't get a chance to, obviously, because we're covering the convention, but my message first is just to avoid these riots. You know, I think that this guy, so if you're not familiar, this Kyle Rittenhouse person, he's a 17-year-old guy. He's from Illinois, I think. And he went over into Kenosha yesterday with an AR-15, and I guess he was with some other people, and they were there to protect businesses. And at some point, and I don't know the whole story, but he was attacked by the protesters. A few of them ran up on him, one with a skateboard, one with a Glock, and they tried to disarm him, essentially. And in self-defense, and you know it was self-defense because he got knocked on his ass. He fell down, he fell backward, and they were trying to strike him, lunge for his weapon. As he fell down, he shot 3 people, killed 2, 1 is injured. And I'll say, I think he was totally in the right in the sense that he was defending himself. I think he was within his rights to defend his life with his gun. And it's clear from the video that this is what happened. He was charged by the protesters, one with a gun. You could see it in the pictures. One had a gun in hand. And he killed them in self-defense. And I think that's what happened. Here's what I'll say, though. He put himself in that situation. He went up to Kenosha with a group of people with a gun. And added to that, not only did he put himself in a dangerous situation with the firearm, but also he crossed state lines to do it, and he's not even a legal adult. And legally, those two things complicate the situation a lot. But in any case, even if that wasn't the case, he goes into that situation with an AR-15, and I have told people countless times on this show, this is what happens when you put yourself in a situation like that. Either you end up dead because they kill you, like Kyle Rittenhouse, he found himself in that situation. Either they would have shot him or beat him to death, and if they got that AR-15, they would have turned it on him and killed him, or shot him with the handgun, or beat him to death with the skateboard, or just punted him. So he would have either ended up dead in that situation, or, and this is even in the best case scenario, if you're attacked, you'll defend your life successfully and you'll get away without harm, but potentially your whole life could be ruined because of the courts. And who knows? Maybe he'll get off. I hope he does. I hope that the courts decide that he's not guilty, right? I hope that the courts drop the charges even. But now his fate is in the hands of the courts, which are biased against him, and they're biased against you. Now his fate is in the hands of the media or the jurors who are biased against him and biased against you. And so, people might say, oh, okay, well, he'll walk. He'll be fine. Maybe so. Maybe he will. Some people are saying the case against him isn't strong. Yeah, that's probably true. But here's the thing. The courts are biased. And we saw that with the Proud Boys. We saw that with the Rise Above movement. We saw that, I think, even with James Fields, if you want to know the truth, in Charlottesville. It happens all the time, and it's not fair, and it's not legal, but it happens because judges, just like anybody else, are political appointees or, elected. So if he gets off and he's not in jail and he's not dead, then he would have gotten really, 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 really lucky. And that would be great, but that should not be replicated because you might not be so lucky. And guess what? If you wind up in that situation and you die, people make a big deal out of it for a week, and then just like all the other martyrs, forgotten. If you get thrown in jail, people make a big deal out of it for a day. You know, Tucker Carlson will talk about it. It'll be on social media. And then within a week, it'll be forgotten, except for a small minority of people. And that's just the way it is. You know, I'm not telling you that that's great or that's how it should be. That is the way it is. So for all these people that see this story and they say, we got to be like him. He's a hero. We need to meet force with force. Yeah, that's great until you wind up in that situation and you end up, like I said, either dead or in jail forever. And when that happens, all these people that are there, riled up and cheering you on, talking about another civil war, they will be nowhere to be found. They'll not pay your legal bills. They will not go to your funeral. They'll tweet about you maybe, if you're lucky. But you really got to keep that in mind. What are you really doing? And this guy, hopefully he walks. But let's say he doesn't. He's going to jail for the rest of his life. Life ruined if the charges stick. He dies, his life is over. Is it worth it? You go out there to what? Defend a gas station in a state that you don't even live in? You go out there to what? Get in a scrum with random protesters? There is a way to make your life count. For whatever reason, people gravitate towards the violent martyrdom, and who knows? Maybe there will be a time for that. Maybe, and I think it's, in some ways, maybe even likely, there may be a situation in the country where things unravel, and it may call for that. But that time is not now, because all you're doing is you're throwing yourself into the machine, you're going to get ground to dust, and that's just going to be the end of you. What you should do for now with these riots is steer clear. Don't go near them. Stay in your house, stay in your neighborhood, watch it on the stream. You're better off. Save your money. If you're concerned, take your family and move somewhere else. If you can handle it, stay where you are. But, you know, throwing yourself out into the machine, so what? You die on some street corner because some protester, some faggot bashes your head open with a skateboard, some white faggot liberal with a bunch of blacks. They kick your head in on a street corner. That's a really noble martyrdom. Not. That's a waste. You know, and there's a fine line between this, like, bravery stuff and just outright waste and stupidity. And it's a young guy like that. It's an adolescent. Adolescents and young men, I think in particular, are susceptible to this. They hear this kind of talk from people. It's very irresponsible on social media. They hear this kind of talk about, you're a hero, we have to do something, now's the time. And young men in particular are susceptible to getting all fired up about that, and they go out and they make life-changing, life-ruining, life-altering mistakes that you don't recover from. I'm just doing my job, my responsibility for your benefit. Okay, I'm looking out for your well-being by telling you that. Got a lot of assholes out there that are going to tell you, you know, this guy's a hero and it's the time is now and, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, we need to go out there and meet these guys in the streets. That's not responsible. I would not be doing my duty if I told you that. Anybody could do that. Anybody could, you know, and it's people like that do it behind the desk and with protection and security and all that. And so you got to look out for yourself for now. We're not in a situation where that does us any favors. You know, this guy getting railroaded by the justice system doesn't do him any favors. It doesn't do us any favors, honestly. So, and I have to say that. All that being said, don't get me wrong. All that being said, I think if you're looking at just the video, he's not guilty of murder. He didn't go out there and murder people. He went out there nominally, you know, to defend property. I think probably there was some element of excitement or adventure. You know, that's what these people do. Because it wasn't his neighborhood. He lives in Illinois. But he went up there to check it out and probably, you know, thought it was a thrill or something, which is what young people do. And that's why it's my responsibility to warn you. But he went up there, and I'm sure he wasn't targeting anybody, anything like that. There's no evidence of that. When he was attacked. He was attacked with lethal force by multiple people with weapons, and he defended his life. He's not guilty of anything. But we have to distinguish between, like, what ought to be and what is. What ought to be is that people like that would never be charged in the first place. People look at it, an investigation be conducted, and they'd say, yeah, no charges here. That was an intentional murder, right? No charges. That's what ought to be. You know, people would look at the Proud Boys and say the Proud Boys were just defending themselves against Antifa. They shouldn't be thrown in jail forever. That's what ought to be. They look at Charlottesville, and they'd say in Charlottesville, the police conspired with the government and Antifa to drive the right-wing protesters into the crowd of Antifa, and there was violence on both sides and self-defense, but that's not what happens. We live in the real world where the system's corrupt and the media's out to get you and the jurors are biased and the judges are out to get you, and they don't care about what happened. They don't care about the evidence. They don't care about any of that. They're political and they want to kill you, okay? They want you dead or in jail or raped or trans or whatever. That's how it is, and that's what has happened. And all these other so-called political prisoners, you know, how many of you even know the names of the Proud Boys, Ram guys, whoever else? You don't. And I don't want to blame you. I'm not trying to shame you. Oh, you don't know the names. You're not, you know, pure enough. I'm not saying that. Point being is, everybody likes to say, oh, well, we'll remember you or whatever, but the political reality is that's just not how it goes. We all know that. Even someone like Cannon Hinnant, as much as I hate to say it, you know, that was a cycle in the media, and we talk about him a lot on the show and what it represents, and, you know, that is part of a lot of different subjects we talk on the show. But what good does that do for his family? And likewise, with all these wannabe martyrs who go out in these situations, ultimately, what does that do for you? You know? So it's just something you want to think about. People are very selfish, and, you know, some people rush into these situations for glory. You're not going to get glory. People rush into that for legacy. You don't get a legacy. That's not, sadly, that is not the way the world works today. And I'm sorry. But I'm here to give people advice based on how the world is, not how it isn't. And that's going to save your life, potentially. I know a lot of people it already has. So I have to tell you that. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on, but I just have to tell you that. I hate what I'm seeing right now. It makes my blood boil when I see these animals, and that's what they are, and you know what I mean. They're animals in these cities setting fires and shooting, and even the ones that aren't doing that, even the disgusting pig women that go into these protests with no clothes on, twerking and cussing, the whole scene. I'm talking about the whole scene, all of it, on social media, in the riots. You know how much contempt I have for that stuff, how angry it makes me, but in order to set things right, and in order to and so I know we're Christian, we don't like revenge, but I'll just say, to make things right, we cannot be emotional about these things or passionate. We have to be dispassionate. We have to be impersonal. We have to be calculated. We can't be hasty or impulsive, because again, the system is so arrayed against us. We have to be better than them. We have to be smarter than them. We have to be more disciplined than them. We have to be more calculated than them, because we're going up against the Death Star, okay? And that's the way it is. That's if you want to help the movement, you want to make things right, I'm telling you how to do it. You got to grow up. You got to grow up and get a grip and control yourself. And I know it's hard to watch, but get a grip. We're going to do something about it. We're doing something about it, but there's a way to do it. And the way not to do it is just throw yourself into the crossfire and die on a street corner for nothing and be forgotten, right? So I'm doing because I got people that watch this show, and they're sons and daughters, mostly sons, daughters too, but the people that watch the show is somebody's son. That guy was somebody's son, and potentially a father if you're lucky, right? And that's where we want people to be, sons and future fathers. And I wouldn't be fulfilling my responsibility to my audience if I told everybody, you worthless, expendable, nothing, you got to throw yourselves into the gears of the machine, or you're not a patriot. I can't do that. It's not right. That's what people used to do for years in the dissident right, and it's that's not responsible. And I've seen the carnage. And I'll just tell you, and this is the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on. A lot of what I speak is from experience. I've seen this happen. There was guy in Charlottesville named James Dodson who he killed himself after Charlottesville. Nothing even happened to him. He didn't get arrested. He didn't get, as far as I know, he didn't get arrested. He didn't get attacked or beaten up or killed or anything. But after Charlottesville, he got doxxed. And some sort of unsavory personal details came out about him, and the left and the media made his life a living hell. This was a brilliant guy, an engineer. His mission in life was to bring affordable electricity to, I think, Arkansas is where he lived. He's an engineer. That was his dream in life, was to make his community be able to have affordable and cheap energy. And he ended up killing himself not even because of the legal system or Anything else? Anybody remember his name? I remember his name. But does anybody know about that? Is there posters of him? Is Tucker Carlson talking about him on his show? No. And that's really sad. But that's also just the way it is. And I don't want to see more people go down like that. I know a lot of people, it could have been the same story. A lot of my friends, even me, it could have been the same story. And it could be you. So, anyway. But, so I hope you understand that's not coming from a place of, that's not, when I tell you to be careful, some people say, oh, you're cucking, you're weak, you're whatever. No. It's smart. It's smart. And that's the way you have to be. It's disciplined. And any fool can run into battle and get their head chopped off. I'm not going to let the Groypers do that. I won't let it happen to our people here. Now, I don't know if I can help it. I'm not going to encourage it. So anyway, I get that all the time. You're a cuck. So you should just do nothing, right? It's like, no, we're not doing nothing. But there's a big difference between, going out and wasting your life, wasting your potential, your freedom, your everything, and doing something, even if only a little bit, is going to be productive for the movement and have your life, right? So, and that's what we want, and that's what we see. Big things are happening behind the scenes, which I can't even tell you about, and I'm sorry I can't, but that's the way it is. And if people only knew the potential, if people could only see, and not everybody has that, but if people could only see what's taking place, you'd be forward-thinking and optimistic and want to salvage yourself for that, for the future, right? For the opportunities and moments ahead. Everybody will have an opportunity to do their part, whatever it is. And we want, ultimately, we're going to expend ourselves. I'm expending myself, But you have to do it in a way that's going to advance the cause and it's going to be worthwhile, I think is the way to think about it. Okay, let's see. Simon Scola says, blacks be like I have to teach my infant sons how to act when they deal with the police officers so they don't get killed. But then when those sons deal with the police, they disobey all their orders and try to fight them. Do people think blacks should be able to do whatever they want? Joke country. Isn't that so funny? They do that all the time. They do say that. They're like, I have to teach my son. I got to teach my son how to talk to the police because they out here shooting everybody. It's like, really? Because you're not doing a great job. Because whenever blacks get arrested, they fight and run and they're disrespectful. I got to teach my son. I got to teach my boy. Because the police out here, they killing everybody. It's like, no, you fucking not. You're not teaching them anything. You're fucking drinking Hennessy and a wife beater watching the game, please, The out-of-wedlock birth rate is 73%. And whenever they get on camera, they're talking about, what great parents. They're great parents. And they, they're looking out for their kids. Oh, really? Whenever they get them on camera in, the ghetto after somebody gets shot on the nightly news. Oh, well, we'll never forget him, and we're great parents, and I was at home cooking a meal. Oh, really? That's why things are the way they are over there, right? Such a joke. But, and yeah, that is the standard, literally. Blacks just can do whatever they want. That is literally the standard now. Like in the Chicago looting last week, there was some pretext for the looting. They made it up. They said that a 15-year-old got shot, unarmed, with his back turned by a cop. And it turned out not to be the case. It was some 20-year-old guy who was fleeing arrest and then turned and shot at the cop first, right? But in that story, BLM, even after all the details came out, said, oh, well, it was fine for him to run because the police are racist. Once all the details came out and they couldn't keep up this lie that it was a 15-year-old who was, running away, and it turned out it was a 20-year-old that shot first and was running away from arrest, BLM came out and said, well, it's okay that he ran away because he was fearing for his life. These cops are racist. And they said that the cops couldn't have pursued him because the DOJ came out and said that, chasing somebody on foot is dangerous. So the standard is literally, yes, they could do whatever they want. Somebody was telling me also that in Chicago, they raised the minimum, dollar value of goods stolen to qualify as a felony. They raised it to something like $1,200, I think. I forget. I just heard this from somebody recently. That now you could steal up to something like more than $1,000 worth of merchandise before it constitutes felony burglary or felony, shoplifting. And that's literally what it is. They can resist arrest. They can, if a cop's trying to arrest you and tases you, you can just walk away from them, get in your car, grab something from your car. Like, that's what happened in Kenosha. They don't have to play by the rules. There's no expectations. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to be polite. They don't have to care about your feelings. They don't have to follow any rules. They don't have to be considerate. They don't have to return the shopping carts. They don't even have to dress nice. They don't even have to, pull up their fucking pants. They don't have to obey the laws, certainly. And when they break them, they don't have to be arrested. And then if somebody gets arrested or, God forbid, killed, they're not expected to not set fires and shoot people and, right? I mean, there's just no expectations. There's no standards. Everybody else has some kind of expectation or standard of conduct. And it seems that as far as the media goes, it's just a free-for-all with that group. And whites, the bar is this high. Whites, it's never enough. With whites, you gotta wait your turn and don't talk out of turn and don't say that word and don't say it like this. And there's too many white people in this space and you need to give more money and you need to vote Democrat, but you need to vote for the right Democrat and you need to be an ally and you need to post this on Instagram and post this on your story. But also it's not a trend, so you have to keep posting it on your story. And right? I mean, so that's just how it is. But we all know. Jordan B says, I had left this in my Twitter mentions unironically arguing what would have been so bad about cops letting Jacob Blake enter his car and drive off. They have his address and could have just got him later. These people are beyond parody. They'll literally justify anything. Hope you've been well, man. I've been busy with work, so I haven't had time to donate lately. 07 to the fallen soldiers, Patriot J and JD. Definitely don't follow James Duncan on Twitter because that's definitely not JD, and he is most certainly not on the app. Well, thanks, buddy. Good to hear from you. Hope work has been going well. I get it. I've been busy, too. That's why I haven't been around. I wasn't here yesterday. I won't be here Friday. But, the thing with Jacob Blake is such a joke. Everybody's saying, oh, you didn't have to shoot him. Do you know, people that say things like that, they just don't even know the first thing about, a physical confrontation. And not that I know anything about it from firsthand experience, but all you need to do is take a cursory look at any video of a cop being shot. And how does it always start? It's a split second when a criminal grabs a gun from the glove compartment or a criminal reaches in his pocket. You're talking about seconds, maybe milliseconds. And factor in reaction time. Somebody's resisting arrest. You've got a taser in them. They're getting into their car. You don't know what's in the car. You just can't take a chance like that. The expectation should be on the criminal. If you're a criminal, you obey the police. And that's how it has to be. Yes, if you deal with the police, you may die. It's not likely. It's not likely at all. And it's totally up to you. When you deal with the police, you might die because the police have the authority to use lethal force. And that is what upholds laws. We don't have laws if you can't kill people for breaking them. That's just the truth. Somewhere along the line, you have to kill people for breaking the law. You don't kill people for a traffic ticket, but there is that latent and constant threat of force that if you go around shooting people, the police will fucking kill you. If you try to kill a cop, the police will kill you. And people say that like it's a bad thing. Oh, the police are deadly. I hope so. We have to defend the laws in our country and the people and their property and their rights with deadly force. But it's very simple. Don't resist. The police are not mobsters. They're not gangsters. If you surrender, they will arrest you. Even if they shoot you, they will give you medical care once you're, incapacitated. But that's the contract. You break that contract, you forfeit your life. Sorry. And, it's not like that's never happened that cops have killed people, and it's not justified. That has happened. But generally speaking, like in this case, how could he have not died? Oh, I don't know. Just get arrested. Same with George Floyd. If he would have just cooperated with the police, wouldn't have died. And he didn't even get killed by police. He just died of an overdose. But if he cooperated, he would have gotten medical care. If he didn't take fentanyl, he wouldn't have overdosed, right? So time and again, it's cause and effect. And specifically with that, it's like when people say, oh, they should have shot him in the leg. Okay, you don't know anything about firearms. You don't know anything about anything, Shoot him in the leg. Okay, They didn't have to shoot him. Well, what are they going to do? Wait to get stabbed to death? What does the guy have to do? Put a fucking bazooka in your face? Pull the pin out of a grenade? Like, what in your mind constitutes a legitimate use of force? It's literally like in Chicago. Guy turns around and shoots at the cops first. In Kenosha, guy reaches into a car. He had a knife in his car. They just found out. In, Atlanta. Rayshard Brooks grabs a cop's taser and turns it on the cops. I think this was also in Georgia, the Ahmaud Arbery case. Who was it? The McMichaels? Ahmaud Arbery grabs the McMichaels shotgun and gets shot. Like, at what point are you able to use force to defend yourself? It goes back to there's no rules, no expectations for certain people. Cops have to treat everybody with kids' gloves. No chokeholds, no guns, no deadly force, and you can't chase them. But I guess blacks can tase you, shoot at you, reach in their car, carry a knife, run around, jump up and down, Anyway. Elron says, remember when liberals were all proud atheists? I kind of miss that when I see them try to browbeat us into accepting deviancy and migrant hordes in the name of Christ. Yeah, because at least it's honest, right? At least they're just telling you, we're devil worshippers. That's literally what they would do. They put up statues of Baphomet, right, in the state capitol. This is about free speech. It's like, okay, well, at least you're just explicitly a tool of the devil, right? But now you have all these fake priests and fake pastors and fake Christians. Well, Scripture informs us, Pete Buttigieg, faggot, Pete Buttigieg, sodomite. Scripture informs us. Give me a break. Charlotte Groiper says, I wish Pete Buttigieg would just, champion Baphomet, because that's what he is. Charlotte Groiper says, I'm sick of hearing neocons talk about the evils of socialism while the entire country's on fire. It's all so tiresome. Yeah, I agree. Diligence is what is happening right now. This is so retarded. I don't know what you're talking about at the time. Because that was sent like a while ago. Elron says, I don't know why people attack you for having a big ego. You need that armor when Homo World is constantly trying to jump down your throat and demoralize you. Wignat brains have been so over-socialized by media that it is inconceivable for themselves to have private thoughts or participate in private actions. Everything must be performative and fit in a narrative like if life was a play with an out-loud monologue. Well, to address the first part, on a professional level, you just have to have a big ego to do this. You just have to run for office, to be a broadcaster. Because, what you're sort of implicitly saying when you're broadcasting is saying, my opinion matters so much that 10,000 people need to hear it. 10,000 people care about what I have to say. If you don't think that, you can't do this. If you're one of these people, and I see it all the time, that try to stream and they're like, oh, what am I? No, I'm whatever. I'm being retarded right now. Whoops. I don't know. I guess I'm just goofy. It's like, well, why would anybody talk to you? It's intrinsic in that, in that interaction. If people are going to listen to you, if other people are going to listen to you, you have to think that you're worthwhile to listen to, right? And the same goes for leadership. If you run for president, you're telling people, I think that I'm capable enough to put the lives of 300 million people in my hands. Why would people put that power in your hands if you didn't think you had it? And if you think you had it, are you not arrogant? Do you not have an ego? You know what I mean? So it's just, it's necessarily the case. And yeah, you make a good point. You should see the kind of stuff that I get browbeat and attacked all the time. People rip you apart when you're on a broadcast. Your hair, your face, your look, your height, your eyebrows. I got a bad... my barber trimmed my eyebrows in a way that looked funny. It ripped to pieces for that. Oh, you hang out with this one, you talk to that one. In this interview, you look like this. And what, right? You didn't do this right. You should do this. So you have to have that component. And then lastly, it's like, who would want to not have a big ego? Is that a really cool thing? I know it's a sin to be prideful, but who would want to be the self-hating, nebbish loser? It's always, people always say that as a big cope. It's like if you feel inferior, if you feel small because of someone's big ego, that's a very convenient excuse to hate somebody. Oh, well, you just have a big ego. Oh, what should I be? Like a fucking loser, well, welcome to the show, I guess. I mean, I'm like Nick, not that you care. Let's just talk about the politics. I don't even know why you care about what I have to say, but in case you want it, I'll tell you. You know what I mean? Like, who would want to watch that show? Who would want to be that person? Nobody, right? Like, that's just, but that's how people are. People just create reasons to like, oh, I feel small, so it's you because of you. You just have an ego. It's like, no, you're just a loser. But it's like, you're just not successful. People tell me, it's like all these giant losers are attacking me. And they're like, yeah, well, this guy's like arrogant or whatever. It's like, you're trying to do what I'm doing and you're failing at it. So I think that explains the resentment a little bit. So... And about the over-socialization, also true. I mean, it's necessary in politics, but also specifically in dissident politics that you're able to maintain secrecy and have something be private. Like, do people not get that? Like, what, do you think that we're going to challenge, like, the global establishment and I'm just going to give you the whole game plan and I'm going to get the consensus from everybody? Do I have everybody's okay on this? Hey, Risen Goy... 420. Are you okay with this? You know, I mean, like, that's just not how anything works. But Wignats are very much like that. And they exist really only in the realm of social media. That's really the problem. If they're not going to get praise for something, if they're not going to get dopamine for it, and it's really everybody, it's a lot of people for that matter, then they don't think it's worthwhile to do it. But you can't be like that in politics. You can't be like that in life. You know, specifically in politics, but also in life, you have to do things that nobody's going to tell you, oh, wow, you were so smart for doing that. Oh, you're so cunning for doing that. And believe me, I know that because I do incredible, brilliant things all the time that nobody knows about. But I'm more interested in winning than I am in, like, showing off. You know, I want everyone to think a certain way about me. But that's how people are. You're right. It's over-socialization. It's the internet. It's social media. People have that in their nature. It's just exacerbated by modern times. But, yeah, you have to be willing to just be a soldier sometimes. And a lot of people like to talk. They like to signal that that's who they are. They want that to be the perception of them. Well, I'm a soldier. I don't care about attention. But, of course, like, that's still part, ironically, you know, cultivating that perception is why they do what they do. You know, people say, oh, I don't like drama much, or I don't like this. But funnily enough, I don't care much for attention or fame or anything. But saying that in itself is a public signal which is meant to cultivate a very specific kind of public perception. So it's still part of it, you know? Part of what, like, not being an NPC is realizing that people don't say what they mean, or realizing that the content of what people say is different than what people are really saying. Do you know what I mean? That's a big difference between an NPC and somebody who's, like, aware, is realizing that when people say words, you know, there's actually meaning not just in the content of them or beyond the literal content of them. Sometimes people lie. Sometimes people aren't, you know, saying exactly what they mean. Some people eat that shit up, and it's like if people just tell you, you know, something, they're like, oh, okay. Okay, sure. So it's like just an extra step. Based Kyle says American History X is a red-pilling movie. Okay, thank you for that. I don't think it's intended to be, but thanks for that. BCR says Crenshaw is apparently in trouble. His loss would be an unqualified win. A Democrat wouldn't be worse, and it would finally wake up the GOP to the danger in Texas. Totally agree. I didn't hear anything about that, but if that's the case, yeah, he needs to lose. Because you're right. I mean, it's, yeah, well said. I mean, we lose nothing. We gain by having Crenshaw not exerting influence on the party. And you're right. It would also wake people up about the demographic change. Trilled in Action says, always same story. My ancestors were sold on an auction block. The pandering does not work. Well, and it's like every person's ancestors have suffered, and that's just sad. Like, I mean, I could get into it in a general way, but like just in the strict sense of what works for this convention, why would we have black people talking about slave ships? How is the narrative of your party and your convention, we don't apologize for America, America's great, And then you're going to have this nonstop parade, this endless parade of blacks getting up and talking about slavery. It doesn't make any sense. Just don't talk about it. Do Democrats get up and talk about how great America is? No, they don't. They don't talk about Columbus was actually really good sometimes. No, they say he was, horrible and genocidal and whatever. And similarly, we have to adopt a sort of totalizing, non-nuanced, strategic approach to our messaging. Just don't fucking talk about it. Yeah, we all know slavery existed. Why talk about it? You've got a limited amount of time to push your worldview. Don't include that. Why include it? Why? Well, because it's fair. It's a more holistic perspective. Well, this isn't a history class. This is a fucking political convention. Push your political message. But some people, well, it's not that people don't get that. It's just that the people in charge of the party are pushing a very different worldview than what is necessary to win and what we are. Michael says, getting shot in the head and dying like LMAO, were those your only plans? True. Moist John says, Laura Trump be like, I'm speaking as a regular woman. And it's true. She had to be talented. Okay, I'm not going to read that. She had to be talented with her something. I'm not going to read that. Vulgar. Polish American Groiper says, I don't understand why these people are fawning over what their teacher said. The only notable thing my teacher told me was that, quote, I was reading at a second grade level, and that he would, quote, recommend that I be put in the slow class. Very funny. I thought that was like a good start because it was a true thought, when you talked about like, people fawning over their teachers, I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere here. And then it was like this lame joke. I get the joke because your teacher called you retarded. That's funny. It's funny because of that. It's better than the first one. It's better than the first one, PAG, but just be yourself, man. Just be yourself. People are always trying to be funny, being sarcastic. Just be yourself. Just be yourself, I don't get on the show every day and think, how can I be funny? Okay, well, I just come on the show and I'm just straight up. I'm just frank and direct. I don't like sit in my room and think, how am I going to be funny now? What routine am I going to do? I'll have a character like this, So anyway, Prince Bismarck says, what do you think of The Art of the Deal? Is it a good book? Yeah, I liked it. I liked the book. Donald Trump didn't write it, probably. Most likely, but it's still an interesting read. I got a lot out of it. Jack Pancakes says, is Thursday night going to be WASP night? I feel like you can count the number of WASP speakers so far on one hand. Would be better to just have chauvinistic propaganda. Totally agree. I hope it's that way tomorrow. Fred Groibson says, and by the way, yeah, like let it be all WASPs at the convention. If there's any tokens, they should be Irish or Italian. Let it be all WASPs. Fred Groibson says, I can't believe the RNC brought back John Lewis to say Dems are the real racists. Yeah. Robert says, it was poor form, Nick, saying that guy was crying before the speech was starting. He did have his family member killed by an illegal immigrant. So far, it's the most base speech tonight. It's poor form. Well, I don't really care that much about, poor form. I was just an observation. So, my job when I'm watching these things is not to be, politically correct or like have a look good. It's to analyze and break down the presentation and the speech. If you're not a baby, you understand that. Am I supposed to be watching this and like when they're crying, I'm crying, and when they say a joke, I'm like, right? I mean, like the point of watching the speech is to break down and analyze the presentation. Not to be like a passive audience member, like an empathetic and passive audience member. So, I mean, what are you, a baby? Grow up. That was really poor form. You couldn't, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Like, will you grow up? Go watch a different show, faggot. Go watch fucking Steven Crowder, where they're going to cry with the victims. I mean, look, I try not to be too cynical, but it's political theater. And it's a horrible story. The story that guy told was horrible. And I feel terrible for him. And I'm empathetic towards him. But it's crying people in one convention. It's crying people in another. It's disabled kids in one. It's disabled veterans in another. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm not empathetic, but it's political theater. It's what it is. And we're analyzing it from that perspective. Is this, is this performance, not that it's inauthentic, But is this exposition, is it effective in what it's doing or not? Because big things are at stake. That's the point of this show, okay? That's the point of this show. So, should I have reacted like that? Oh my gosh. That was really powerful. Should I react like that? I don't know. What do people think? What do people think? What goes on in your pea brain watching this show? I don't understand it sometimes. Does that make me a bad person? Okay, yeah. Maybe I'm just a big jerk. Whatever, okay? But go watch the baby show. Go watch the show with your fucking wife if you want that. Go watch the show with your fucking girlfriend if you want sensitivity. That was really poor form. Oh, you're admonishing me? I have poor form. Don't say that. I hate when people do that more than anything. When people are, you should have done that. It's bad form. Like, what does it even mean? That wasn't polite or civil. Okay, whatever. Welcome to the baby show. Hi, welcome to the baby show. I'm a fucking baby. I'm a baby. I can't even walk. I can't even lift. I have tiny little baby arms and baby hands, and I can't even put a bottle to my head to drink out of it because I'm a little baby, and I'm sucking on my hand. And if you put your finger in my hand, I'll grasp it because of my reflexes, because I'm just a giant. I'm a, life-size. I'm a grown-up baby like you. Harry B says... With that said, I thought it was an effective presentation. Harry B says, hey, Nick, I just turned 16 just a few hours ago, Anglo time. I asked a similar question this time last year on my 15th, but in a few weeks I'll be entering college, so any advice for an up-and-coming BNR Nicker heading into college? Love you, Nick. Hey, well, thanks, buddy. Happy birthday. Hope it's a good one. 16, good year. Yeah, don't do drugs, don't smoke, don't drink. That's my advice. Save your money. Read books. Don't waste time. Just don't waste your time. Do something productive every day. Regiment your day. That's the biggest mistake people make, is they don't have structure to their day, and then they just waste a lot of time. And then they just waste a lot of time. You know what I mean? You waste hours in your day, and then you waste all your days. And then you waste years. And then you're 25, and you have nothing. And then you're 25, and you're like, wait a minute, why am I a total loser? You can always turn it around. It's no use being upset about wasted time because you never get it back. And the more time you spend being upset about wasted time is more wasted time. So you can always turn it around if that's you, but you want to waste as little time as possible because you never get more of it. That's my advice. Dr. Zoomer, yeah, don't mess around too much with girls either. Another waste of time, unless you're serious about getting married. Let's see. Dr. Zoomer says, do you think massive mail-in voting would be a death blow to Trump winning? Looks more and more like it's going to happen. I honestly don't know. It's really unpredictable because it's so shadowy. I mean, I think there's a high likelihood of fraud, but who knows if it'll be successful, if it'll be extensive, if they'll get caught. I just don't know. Optics Respecter with a big super chat. Thank you so much. He says, did you see Kyle Rittenhouse's encounter with BLM sycophants last night? Look, people shouldn't get themselves into these situations, but one of the assailants faked surrender in a paramedic cap before pulling a pistol on Kyle. We have to help this young man. Totally agree. And that's my position. I want to help this guy. And I want the best for him. I don't know what you could really do to help him, though, honestly. I mean, he's just at the mercy of the courts. Bring attention to it for sure, but I just want him to be a cautionary tale so people know. Don't want to end up in a bad situation like that. But yeah, I saw it. Thanks for the big super chat, though, buddy. Stay safe. Stay safe. Optics Respecters down there in the path of some bad storms. So I hope you're doing okay, buddy. But yeah, it was horrible. What happened to him? And he's 17. That's the thing. He's a young kid. He's, you know how it's like when you're 17. I know I am 17 years old. I'm 17. So I get it. No, but joking aside, and he got into that situation, but that's what happens in riots, things like that. So, but it's terrible. I'll do whatever I can to help him. I saw they shut down his GoFundMe, which is like, of course. So, Optical Wignat says, if you ain't riding with Biden, you ain't white. That's not true. It's the opposite. If you're not riding with Trump, you're not white. Moscow Mitch says, Kyle, John Wick, Conson, Rittenhouse exemplifies anarcho-tyranny. Self-defense for me, prison for thee. Exactly, and that is anarcho-tyranny. Almost killed by anarchists, defend yourself, go to jail, right? I mean, that's a definition of anarcho-tyranny. And that's why we gotta, sort of recalibrate our strategy, if you're still thinking like that. Based Kyle says, Kenosha Police Department single-handedly canceled multiple pro sports leagues. Based? Yeah, I am glad that they shut down, like, the NBA and everything. Ethelred says, hey, Nick, would you consider debating the academic agent on YouTube? He has 50K subs and is a libertarian and a friend of Sargon's. I think if you debated race, it would be interesting. Thanks. No, I'm not really interested in debating him. I don't think he has that much clout. 50,000 subs on YouTube is really not much. And I see the engagement he gets. He doesn't really get a lot of engagement, so I don't really think that's worth my time, honestly. The guy's always been nasty to me, so I don't think I'll do that. Unless, I might be thinking of somebody else. In which case I feel like, maybe I spoke too soon. Because there's a lot, I know Academic Agent, isn't he one of these, like, Catholic, YouTubers? A lot of these Catholic YouTubers hate me, and they always make videos disparaging me. So I forget if it was this guy or somebody else. If it's somebody else, I take it back. Maybe I debate him. But if it's guy I think it is, then no way. Not enough clout, sorry. If it's guy I think it is, if I'm right, then yeah, sorry, you're too much of a loser. But if I'm thinking of the wrong person, then yeah, I might do it. So we'll see. Hugh says, Kyle Rittenhouse drop-shotting that kid was cheap. I hate when people do that in COD. And then he does the orange justice on his body afterwards. Totally disrespectful. Sorry if this is a double send. The first one wouldn't post. Yeah, he was BMing that guy. Not cool. Not sportsmanlike. And I know, the drop shot, very cheap, very gay. Dropping into a prone position, and it's like, yeah, you might as well just had a noob tube. Moscow says, a one-day convention would be better quality and ratings, no cringe filler. People might actually watch. I don't know. I disagree. I think they get 4 days, and they get 20 million viewers every night. So I think they milk it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the duration of it. They just got to make it better. Fresh Takes as we achieved the lowest rate of stay-at-home moms since Reagan. We got them jobs in the Space Force. Yeah, isn't that something to celebrate? Ethelred says, hey, Nick, what do you think of having some sort of organization or fund to help support people who get doxxed? Basically, if someone gets doxxed that's on our side, they could have some financial assistance to help them recover, making it so that getting doxxed isn't a death sentence, just an idea. I don't know about that. I mean, it sounds like a good idea on paper, but then you got to think, what if people are just irresponsible? And then what if people just grift? You create some element of moral hazard where it's like welfare. If you have another kid, you'll get more money. If you quit your job, you'll get a bigger check. If you dox yourself, you can get supported by the welfare fund, right? Or additionally, where does it start and where does it end? Is there a fund that keeps these people afloat forever, for their whole life? What if they can have other opportunities, And how do you distinguish between somebody who justifiably got doxxed, not that it's good, but somebody that was just super stupid and careless, and somebody who's deserving? I don't know if I'd want to oversee something like that. I think it's very messy. I think it's kind of wacky. I'll help people when I can, if I can, to the extent that I can, but I think that would create some unintended consequences. Bill says, every time I hear Mike Pence giving a speech, I think of the video where he is talking about Space Force with the Halo theme in the background. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Moscow Mitch says, debate format favors Pence because his opponent equals change of pace. Speaking alone, he equals Mr. Monotony. What do you mean? I don't understand, honestly. Jay Ryan says, hey, Nick, been watching since the Bird Watcher. First time chatter. I want to like Pence, but he's going between based and cringe faster than a spurg on a swing set. Well, thanks for the first time super chat. Yeah, I mean, I like Pence. I think he's wholesome. I think he's a strong speaker. But he's not our guy is the thing. A lot of the base things that he's saying, I think he's largely saying them because it meets the moment. It matches the moment and where the people are at. And I think the cringe is because he's really just a dime a dozen, evangelical, mainstream conservative. And not there's anything wrong with that, but it's just like a generic mainstream conservative is not really what the Trump administration is about. So I think that's why that's the case. So, I mean, I like Pence insofar as he supports Trump. I don't know if I love him in himself that much. Nick Calling says 800 subs in 3 weeks. Weirdly, I feel it wouldn't be possible without your voice being out there. Oh, on your YouTube channel? You mean you... Yeah, that's so weird. You're getting engagement on a channel that consists entirely of my voice? Yeah, I mean, literally, it wouldn't be possible. You're right. Late Night says 2 out of the 3 losers shot last night in Kenosha were felons, and the little bald wigger that took a round to the head was a registered pedophile. Most base timeline, they got what they fucking deserve. Totally agree. Yeah, I'm not upset at all that those people, died or whatever. I'm upset that this guy's going to get railroaded now. Yeah, fuck these people. Rioters, looters. They're lucky it's not worse for them. Let's see. B and RP says freedom didn't work. We want a right-wing king, and we want it right now. Yes, totally agree. I do want a right-wing king. Dylan Volk says, did he really mention women's unemployment? Barf emoji. I know, Dylan. Isn't that so gross? Thanks for the super chat, buddy. We love what you're doing with Baked Alaska, by the way. Loving the content. Alex says, Ari, the 17-year-old, it doesn't look grim. Those shots were not black looters with self-defense. He is 17. Would you consider starting fundraising for him? It's controversial and it will generate PR. You are not a fan of these actions due to consequences, but support helps to spread the awareness. I don't know, maybe. The thing is, it's tricky because GoFundMe will never allow it. A lot of these fundraising sites won't allow it. And then there's also the question of, impropriety. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm in the business of raising awareness and, I'm on social media. I have the show. So I'm not really in the business of starting charities. I don't feel comfortable with that. Like with this Build the Wall initiative recently where the guy got busted for taking $300,000 a year out of the charity. Not that I would do that, but I would feel more comfortable if somebody else started it. If somebody else started a charity for him, I'd support it. I'd shill it. I'd put it on my show. I'd retweet it. But that's just not really, that's not really what I do. And also, I'm just honestly too busy for that right now. So if somebody wanted to do that, I'd be more than happy to help and collaborate. But I just got too much on my plate, and it's just not really something I'm comfortable with. Afghan Groiper says, are you just memeing when you say you're anti-democracy? No. I'm also opposed to democracy, liberalism, and secularism. But it's undeniable that they're the ideals of the Founding Fathers. That's not really true, actually. The Founding Fathers have basically been bastardized and, sort of twisted by and warped by libertarians. The Founding Fathers really not that. They were really not in favor of democracy. They really were not really even all that liberal, all things considered. Relatively, and really not that secular even. I mean, the Founding Fathers were all Christian, and the country was all Christian, and they wanted the country to be Christian. They think that it's necessary for the country to be Christian. They want the laws to be informed by Christianity. That's really not secular. As far as liberalism goes, if you read the Founding Fathers like John Adams in particular, but even some of the others, they're not people that are totally in favor of absolute democracy or reason or freedom or things like that. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. I mean, the most I think you could say is that they were liberal. I'm not going to say they're not liberal, but I don't think that they're this caricature that people make them out to be where it's like they're total libertarians in favor of total freedom or something like that. I mean, they were liberal, but they weren't and we're extremely liberal, especially for the time. Just compare and contrast the Founding Fathers with the revolutionaries in France, and I think you'll see pretty clearly there's a distinction. But I will say they're liberal. And then as far as democracy goes, they were not in favor of democracy. They thought that the masses of people would be just as much of a threat to create tyranny or problems as the executive, the legislature, the courts. That's why, you had the bicameral legislature with one house for the states and one house for the people. That's why the president was chosen by electors instead of the people. That's why even in the House of Representatives, you couldn't vote unless you were white, owned property, right, of a certain age. So universal suffrage, what we have now, and direct elections of senators and direct election of the president, it's a far cry from what we had back then. And, technically we don't have direct election of the president, but, you have these votes in the states, and then whatever the vote total is, they send their electors to Washington. That's not how it worked initially. It was very different. So, to say that the country is necessarily democracy, liberalism, secular, that's based on a very twisted caricature that's been created. And it's fundamentally not true. There's truth in it, but it's not true. Moscow Mitch says, what was the point of the national anthem between Pence and Trump? Cringe rendition. Terrible pacing. Sad. I thought it was all right. Moscow Mitch says he says Trump, that was an old one. He says Trump coming out and out speaking was anticlimactic. Could have had so much energy with a teaser speech. I totally agree, actually. Harambe Lives says Trump needs to come out guns blazing tomorrow. P.S. Have you checked out Big Floyd on Instagram? No. And I agree about Trump. Portland Groypers is kind of far-fetched, but do you think Trump will sign a surprise executive order during tomorrow's speech? Maybe, but I don't think it's likely. Polish American Groypers says, sorry, Nick, I can't vote for Trump. Guess I'll have to commit large-scale voter fraud. Wish me luck. Need to contact Election Fraud Groyper for advice. Okay, well, I'm not encouraging that. I don't want to be investigated. Don't put super chats to talk about that. But do vote for Trump, okay? Lewis says, pray for our brothers. Okay. Gay and Fake says, thank you, Nick. Thanks, buddy. King of Vibing says, hey, Nick, thanks for the coverage of the RNC as well as the DNC last week. Makes it a lot more tolerable. Can't imagine giving up on Trump as flawed as he is. Yeah, well, and it's not even about giving up on him. It's really more about, it's very, very calculated decision about what's good for our movement, what's good for what we're trying to do to change the country, But I understand what you mean. Base Crusader says, we will win because we have God, and God always wins. He's our shield and sword. The devil will fall. Oh, that's all you have to keep in mind. If God's on our side, we literally will not lose, ever, You got to think about that. I mean, if God is on our side, and he is, he's coming back, They can't, how can you beat God? He's God. You know what I mean? So there's literally an impossibility. Imagine not being on the side that has God. It's like, well, we have the media and we have God. So, we have Soros, we have trillions of dollars and the banks and, oh, yeah, okay. We literally have God on our side. So, whatever, So, yeah, good luck, man. Whatever. Try it. Jonathan Greenblatt is curious how the coronavirus shilling on social media disappeared again when this round of riots picked up. Yeah, isn't that funny how that works? Well, you can't catch coronavirus if you're like setting a car lot on fire, I guess. Or if you're twerking. Big Butter says, thanks for streaming these gay-ass conventions. We've been kecking, says Groyper Ghetto. Hey, well, thanks to the Groyper Ghetto. Thanks, Big Butter. Glad you guys are enjoying the stream. T-Based with the Ninja. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. T-Based has been going off this week. He's the Sheldon Adelson of the movement. He says, Jaden Gang in chat. Yeah, Jaden Gang is in chat. Jaden Gang, in terms of proximity, is very close, actually. Jaden Gang is here. Jaden Gang is in the studio. So, thanks for the Ninja. Much appreciated. We love the Jaden Gangs. We love the Jaden Gang. So thank you so much for that. Big shout out. I'll give you the Jaden salute. Big shout out. I appreciate it. to commemorate. Big shout out. Yo, big shout out, T-Based. I appreciate it. Should I play a little Uzi and like fly into my chair and all that? That would be fitting. I'm not going to do that though. King says, what do you say to those who, when talking about the Jacob Blake situation, say, well, 7 shots is excessive. He could have just shot him once or twice. That is just not how it works. You know, it's like the argument about shooting someone in the leg. When you use lethal force, you're using it to kill. People just don't understand that. People think it's like a cartoon or something. I'm not saying you do, but like the whole point of drawing your gun is to kill. Like, you use the gun to kill people. The gun is not, it's not a toy. It's not like, you know, using that to incapacitate somebody. When you draw a gun and fire, the objective is to kill. You know, lethal force is being engaged, and you shoot to kill. You shoot until the other person is completely incapacitated. And, you know, if that's 7 shots, if that's 5 shots, you know, it's what it takes. So you shoot center of mass and you shoot to kill. That's what you do. So I think that's just like, you know, I understand that point. I understand that perspective. But what you have to understand about law enforcement in these kinds of situations is there's just like a certain, like, it's like almost a different set of rules that applies when it comes to that. Like, that it might be counterintuitive or might not be obvious just looking at it, like, oh, that's a lot of shots. But you got to think, in a life or death situation like that, this guy's reaching his car, he could turn around and fucking kill you. He could turn around and blast your head off. You're drawing a gun. You have to kill him. You've made that decision. He's got to go. You know, and the only threshold is that he dies. So there's no like maximum amount of shots, but there is a minimum potentially, and you don't know where that number is. What if you shoot him 3 times and he turns around and kills you? The guy lived, right? Isn't the guy still alive anyway? What if he was still alive and turned and pulled the gun? It's happened before. So you gotta finish the job. INTJ Groiper says, hey, Nick, big fan of the show since Groiper Wars. Thanks for all you do. Your show is big and motivating me to take hold of my life and work to pursue God and a future family. My prayers are with you. Well, thank you so much, man. That's great to hear. I love to hear that. Be like that. Get with God. Get a hold of your life. Don't go and, like, you know, get put in jail. We want people to be like this. Happy and healthy and pillars of their community and all that. Saving their souls. So, hey, glad to hear it, buddy. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. Get your family. Get your salvation. That's what we want. Hannibal Respecter says they originally booked a regular Chinese guy to talk about communism, but they saw how many disabled people were at the DNC. They swapped him out for a blind one. No, it was effective. It was very jarring. So, Fed Up Liberal says Trump looks younger in this debate. Keep eating bad food and the mind and body will degenerate. 600,000 Americans die of heart disease every year, which is preventable. Meat, dairy, and gluten are the real virus. Hypocrites say, let thy food... Okay, shut up, liberal. Fed Up Liberal. Yeah, I could tell you're a liberal. You think it's the McDonald's, or do you think it's the being the president of the United States with the whole world against you kind of thing, right? Looking at the sitting president aging quickly, and you attribute that to the diet and not being president of the United. Look at Barack Obama. Look at how much he aged between 8 and 12 and 16, and the guy was eating salads. Okay, that's so weird. Why is the president aging at an accelerated pace? Definitely not being the leader of America. It's definitely not the stress induced by that. Nah, probably just ate too many Big Macs or something. Probably just ate too many French fries. What are you thinking, man? Trump looks this good at 73. He was 73 when this debate takes place. And the guy's been eating like shit his whole life, and he looks young. Okay? Think about that. Your argument works against you. Jason Buckle says, what if the riot is likely to happen in our hood? Should we flee our neighborhood militia? If the riot happens in your neighborhood, it's a different story. You know, if you're traveling to do this, you know, ridiculous. If the riot's happening in your neighborhood, if you must, defend your life and your property. But just as well, even if it's in your neighborhood, don't be going out into the street and all that. You know, maybe if you've got a neighborhood group, okay, if it's organized and you've got friends. It's more than just you. But even still, if you're going out there in your own neighborhood alone with a gun, and, you know, even if they're in your neighborhood, it still could end terribly for you. So I don't know why people are just itching to do that. If it's in your neighborhood, well, then you take care of it. If they try to breach your house, kill them. If they try to harm you, kill them. But don't put yourself in a situation where that's going to happen. Because you don't want to be in a situation where the only options are like kill someone, die, or kill someone and then go to jail forever. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to avoid that like tree of possibilities as much as you can, right? You do not want to be put in a situation where your three options are die, go to jail, or defend your life and go through a court battle, or like, you know, have blood on your hands or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you want to avoid that from happening if necessary. And like I said, if they're on your fucking property, go to town, right? But look at the laws, because even sometimes there are many cases where people they'll think they're in the right, and then the laws are, you know, you're fucked depending on the state. If the laws are bad, you might be screwed no matter what. So you just don't want to, if you can, just try to avoid. I think everybody understands that. Polish American, but definitely don't be driving across state lines to carry out that. Polish American Groyper says, sorry for making you sound dumb. Your monologues, however, paint a different picture. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. What are your top 3 favorite Polish American Groyper super chats? I don't know. I cannot recollect many good ones because for a while they've been pretty rough. You sent some good ones on my birthday. You sent a nice one, and I think you sent a funny one on my birthday. I don't remember the content of it. You've had some good hits. You've had some winners, but I don't know. You just you gotta keep the effort up, okay? Chicken on a Raft says 1 executive order can deport 1 million criminals. Don't die in the street fighting 10 of them. That's a good point. If we can control government, the damage we can do is totally disproportionate. That's what you got to keep in mind. So work towards something bigger than just like going and getting your head blown off, right? Water Groyper says, thanks for doing everything you do. Hey, well, thanks, buddy. Thanks for the guinea. Really good comics with the super chat says these recent events are hitting too close to home. I should create really good city. Still uses RGC letters where whites can thrive, drive, and chive on. Also locked for a week on Twitter for saying, feel the power of my goy punch, you something rat bastard. Okay. Well, thank you to Really Good Comics for that. You know, Risen Goy is also kind of part of RGC, right? RG. Really Good, Risen Goy, which I know you've been going by on Twitter. So thanks for the super chat. Yeah, literally, right? It's that's how it goes. You should create the Really Good City. I would move to Really Good City. I think everybody would. So thanks for that. And hey, in the Really Good City, you could talk about Demi Lovato without getting banned from Twitter. But hey, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Much appreciated. Hope you're staying safe. Kookmaster says James Fields. Okay, I'm not going to read that. Oh, he says he's being sarcastic. All right. He says James Fields will be liberated and given the Medal of Honor, and the lying mouths of his accusers will be shut. Our opportunity will come when the fiat runs out. Stay cool until then, guys. We don't need more martyrs. Yeah, gonna disavow all that. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. I thought you were, but now I don't think you are. When I read like part of it and then another part, and I was like, oh, he's being sarcastic. Now I don't think he is. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, disavow. In fairness, I didn't look at the James Fields situation very closely, but it looks to me like he got scared and ran over people, but who knows? So I don't want to die on that hill. I'm just gonna say. Quantum says, God bless the Groypers. Hey, thanks. Says, ask and ye shall receive. I'm reading it as yay because I'm thinking about Kanye. Ask and ye shall receive. If Trump gives you the word, you go. If you give me the word, I go. Hey, well, thanks, buddy. I take it seriously. Tactical Nukes is amazing monologue about the Wisconsin shooting. They will get your pound of flesh to satisfy the mob. Absolutely raw and hard-hitting. Thanks for all you do. Well, thanks, buddy. Glad you liked it. Dances with Metroid says, you really have a talent for putting things into perspective. At the end of the day, Kyle ruined his life out of state to protect a stranger's gas station. Not worth it. And ultimately changed nothing in our people's favor. And that's, I don't want to give you an argument that's like anything other than totally logical and based on what's in your interest, you know, whether that's your interest in yourself or as part of something bigger. I'm not going to tell you guns are scary or riots are bad. I'm going to tell you here's why this doesn't work for us. Here's why this does nothing for us. Why it does more harm than good for us as a movement or as a people and for you individually. So I'm glad, I appreciate you saying that. That's what I'm trying to do. Because it's true, kid's 17 years old. 17. And he could have been dead. Well, think about the situation he was in. He got lucky that he survived. And he'll be lucky if he survives the courts. But what if he just got shot or his head bashed in? The guy's 17, and for what? You know, for what? There'll be a time, maybe, for that. But it's not now. Albert says, the best thing we can do is, like you said, get good jobs, start a family, join a community, get in positions of influence, and donate to the cause when we can. We have to be smart and pick our battles and not do anything stupid. There's nothing bad or weak about taking your advice, in my opinion. Well, it's caution. It's caution. And more than caution, it's calculation and it's discipline. You know? And I appreciate you saying that because that is true. And you got to think about, let's say, for example, that, you know, the counter argument is what? People are going to go out there and the country's going to rise up and reject the looters and all that. And you got to think, okay, let's entertain that argument for a moment. For people that say that it's like a weak mentality, you know, and this guy was a martyr and blah, blah, blah. It's like, let's entertain that for a second. So the argument goes like this. You go out there, maybe you die. Your life is over. Like, you don't get to see the end, right? Or maybe you defend yourself, but you end up in jail forever. The argument is that if that happens to enough people, eventually America will rise up and, like, conservatives and white people take to the streets and secure the streets with force. Number one, is that plausible at all? Do you foresee that happening? We don't have social media. We don't have TV. We don't have radio. We don't have print. Do you foresee that? Even if we did, even if we had all those mass communications media, would we be able to do that? Do you foresee your boomer Republican uncles and parents and whoever else taking to the streets? They haven't taken to the streets so far. They didn't 2 months ago. They didn't do it in Portland. They didn't do it in Minneapolis. They didn't do it in Chicago. What makes you think they're going to do it now? Why would they? Did they do it in the 70s when things were worse and people were more masculine and aggressive and maybe, you know, it's not over-socialized like it is today? No. So what about enough dead kids and enough jailed kids is going to make that happen? That's the first thing that's completely implausible about that. Well, if you go out there, then people are going to rise up. Really? People don't even boycott movies. People don't even boycott, you know, whatever. Think about how little people go out of their way to do for the sake of politics and how many would even do that, right? I mean, look across the country. Trump has a 96% approval rating. That gives you an idea of where your average conservative is or Republican is. The most that they'll do is buy fucking beans, buy Goya product beans at the grocery store because the Democrats said that they didn't like it, right? These people are now going to take to the streets and rise up, and then what? Let's say they do that. I think that's completely implausible right now. I don't think that's going to be in the cards for a while, if ever. I don't think people, you know, they may never rise up like that. Who knows? You don't know, but they're definitely not anytime soon. In any case, let's say they do, okay? I find it implausible, but let's say people take to the streets. Then what happens? They're going to fight with the protesters. The protesters will come and they'll escalate. They'll come with firearms. We'll come with firearms. Eventually, you know, if it keeps spiraling in that alternate scenario where people are just getting off their asses and killing each other, well, there's going to be sustained fighting. Which side do you think the government will come down on? Do you think they'll come down on the side of us or the protesters? I think it's pretty obvious. Let's say that, you know, and that's the component people don't think about, but let's say they didn't. You know, the government would naturally, immediately target the right-wing militias. Immediately. They would target anybody organizing for a right-wing or ostensibly white or pro, even law and order cause. You'd get the FBI involved. You'd get police involved. If they didn't crack down on Antifa, you could bet they would crack down on us. Let's say they didn't. Let's say the government's a non-factor, but why wouldn't they be? But let's say they are. And we're just allowed to go at it, for a sustained period of time. Who's going to facilitate that? Who's going to fund that? Who's going to get us, the materials or the supplies or the logistics to support that? Black Lives Matter has billions of dollars. They got the support of the media. They got the support of, organized Jewry. They got the support of the donors, the financial class, Wall Street, Bank of America, BlackRock. What do we have? Who's going to facilitate that? Sheldon Adelson, the Koch brothers? It's like every step of the way. You don't even have to get that far, but every step of the way, it doesn't make any sense. But that's the problem, is nobody thinks. When people go out and do stupid stuff like that, they are allowing emotions to prevent them from thinking logically and going all the way. Like anybody with enough sense can figure out that like the idea of going into these dangerous situations and it's a big win for us, like there's no logical way to explain that. Logic cannot penetrate what a ridiculous, theory that is. But that's the problem. People get fired up, they get angry, they get emotional, and they're not thinking. They're not thinking about all that. They don't stop to think seriously and deliberately about what they're about to do. I doubt this guy thought about all that, and that's why he's going to be in jail, potentially. If he's lucky, he won't be. But that's the kind of stuff that you got to think about. Let's see. How about Nas says, when schools reopen, there will be a lot of black on white bullying and violence, especially against unpopular white boys. Middle and high school girls will be pressured into sexual favors for reparations. I don't know if I think that's probably not true. Outbursts in class, forget it, nonstop. Yeah, I don't know if I go that far. There's going to be this dystopia where your daughter's going to be blowing a black guy for reparations. Like, yeah, I think we're a little bit far away from that still. I mean, who knows? But that seems like kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't know about that. Quantum says, I'm increasingly confident in the awakening of the American public that chaos has caused a small but steady and widening leak of awareness. The only strategy for the Dems until November is to exacerbate the chaos and come up with new Trump scandals. Fuck Jacob Blake. Yeah, I mean, I think people are in some ways waking up, but you'd be surprised, actually. I mean, we'll see how it shakes out in November. I don't know. I mean, we'll either be really disappointed or we'll be surprised, but pleasantly surprised. But I don't know. Because I look at some of the polling and these other things, and it's like, you'd be surprised. I mean, we're getting angry, and online maybe there's some outsized involvement, but, I mean, how do you know that everyone in the country's really getting fired up? I mean, I guess there's anecdotal sort of evidence. Like, you hear around your social circles, people are getting upset or whatever, but I haven't really seen a lot of evidence that supports the idea that there's like this mass awakening happening, which is disappointing. Tactile Nuke says, Nick has a cookie in his pocket. No, I don't. Ryan says, finish the documentary, Marching to Zion. It really is a battle between good and evil. Add another red pill on the list of many since watching America First. Have you watched Europa, The Last Battle? I have not. WD40 Glock says, despite being 13% of the population, blacks make up 85% of the RNC. Yeah, totally true. And ridiculous. Moscow Mitch says, the show would be even better if you swore less often. Sounds cringe, but that is the number one problem when I share your content with other conservative Christians. Keep the non-PC talk like sodomite, but gratuitous F-word makes you sound degenerate, buddy. Sorry, but no. Nate Smokes says, I got stopped. Like, there already is that. There already is, if you want to watch, like, Catholic Answers or whatever, I've never understood that. I mean, I'm not really, like, super offended by profane stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, that's not really the texture of what we're trying to do on the show. Yeah, sorry if you don't like it, but that's just what the show is. So, Nate Smokes says, I got stopped by a cop while driving. He gave me the ticket, but we had a great convo about Kenosha and BLM. He was pretty based. He told me he wasn't worried because the mayor supports the cops. Made me wonder what cops think in Dem cities. Also made me think about how hard it is to get shot by a cop. Well, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Nate Smokes, my greatest ally on D Live, which I appreciate. And you gotta think that the cops hate the BLM stuff and they hate the Antifa stuff, because they're in effect like the largest group of like dissidents in the country, effectively. I mean, BLM makes police officers in this country feel how we feel. Think about that. Like, cops in general as a category get virtually the same treatment now as Trump supporters or like right-wingers or dissidents, right? Everything that like I experience on some level, cops as a group are experiencing, in the sense that they're attacked by the media, smeared, dehumanized, right? So you got to imagine that just reactively, maybe they're not all becoming conservative or right-wing or whatever, but I mean, they're definitely ripe. They're definitely, I think, fertile breeding ground for us to win them over. Scheckelberg says, I've been abbreviating Kenosha as Keno because that's what these Rittenhouse videos are. At least 2 of them had interesting rap sheets. Yeah, somebody else mentioned that. Tactical Nuke says, all my teachers were stupid women that treated me like shit because they hated their lives. Only good teacher I ever had was a man. I had some good girl teachers and some good boy teachers. Dr. Zoomer says, if our situation at times seems dire, just imagine being a white South African. I don't know if we should be like minimizing our own problems, right? I don't know why we would do that. Polish American says, I don't like your super chat because they make me say dumb stuff. 30 minutes later, I'm a baby. I can't even walk. I can't even lift. And I'm sucking on my hand. I'm a life size. Oh, so now you're getting nasty. Now you're talking back to me, huh? Well, I'm saying that to be funny. I'm saying that in a joking way. And it's funny. People are laughing. I say the stuff you say, and it's just stupid, and it's not funny, and nobody laughs, not even me. I say stuff that sounds dumb, but it's funny to me. It's funny to everybody. I'm a funny presenter. You say dumb stuff that's just dumb. It's not funny. It doesn't sound funny. It just makes me sound like a goofy goof. So don't talk back to me. Just take your beating. Just take your beating, super chatter. Take your beating like a man. Come back with some good stuff. What I don't want to read in my super chats is back talk. I do not want to hear attitude, okay? Go upstairs. Go in your room. No dinner. No Big Mac. I'm eating your Big Mac. I'm eating your fries. And give me your chocolate shake too, okay? I'll take on the aging, I'll eat the McDonald's and I'll age. You can eat fucking green beans, okay? And I'll swear too. And you can't swear. And if you don't cry during the RNC, that's poor form and you're grounded, okay? How's that? You see, this whole show, it's, you need to stop swearing. It's poor form. You sound dumb. Constant needling. I'm just covered in pinpricks from the super chatters drawing blood. Ethelred says, hey, Nick, I'm just teasing. Polish American Groiper, he's a good sport. He knows I'm just teasing him. He knows I'm just giving him a hard time, but we love him. But we love Polish American Groiper. He's a part of the show. He's a character on the show now. King says, is the Office TV show based or cringe? Definitely cringe. Well, it's really neither. I mean, I thought it was funny when it was on, but now all these normies like it, and I dislike it for that reason only. Ethelred says, hey, Nick, I think you were thinking of Charlemagne, not the academic agent. I don't think I've ever heard AA say anything bad about you, and I watch a lot of his content. You might be right. I don't know Charlemagne. I was probably thinking of someone else. Base Crusader says, hail to the king, hail to the one, kneel to the crown, stand in the sun, fuck democracy. Very good, I like that. Ethelred says, hey Nick, big white pill, my avid Democrat sister flipped and is now pro-Trump, to the shock of the family and I attribute this to my prayers and God. Remember to have faith and pray, everyone. Hey, totally agree. That's what it takes sometimes. It's out of our control, ultimately, so... I like that. Big prayer energy. Afghan Groiper says, thanks. Didn't think of it that way about the Founding Fathers. I stand corrected. Hey, no problem. B&RP says, have you seen what it's like out there, Nick? Do you ever actually leave the studio? I leave the studio often. Nick Calling says, unironically, the Angelo John Gage motivated me. I don't know. What do you mean by that? The stream, you mean? Well, I'm glad I motivated you in some way. Vince James with the Ninjagini says, support Nick. Hey, thanks so much. I should have mentioned this, by the way, but Vince James just had all of his YouTube channels banned yesterday. He's got a family, and they took away all his YouTube channels overnight. So be sure to follow Vince James. Follow Vince James right now on DLive. I hosted him yesterday, so I hope everybody followed him. But if you didn't, go to his channel. Go to @VincentJames. Follow him, and next time he's streaming, give him a Ninjagini, okay? We got to support our guy. We love Vince James. And he got totally screwed. He didn't even break TOS. If you watch his content on YouTube, it was, as appropriate as you can be. So it's terrible. But we're praying for him, and we got his back. We're supporting him. T-Base with a big super chat, another Ninjet. 2 Ninjets. He says, 3 Ninjets, counting the other one. He says, if you entered into a 2v2 debate against Shapiro and Kirk, who would you want to be on your team? P.S. Jaden asked me to tell you to buy him food. I already did that, by the way. But thanks for the Ninjet. Thanks for the 2 Ninjets. Much appreciated. His third one just says, this is my 3rd super chat. Well, thank you so much for the Ninjets, man. I really appreciate it. Big shout out. I appreciate it. I bought him food yesterday. I'll buy him food. He's not hurting financially. He's doing fine. But I'll take care of the little nibba. And the debate, if I were to go against Shapiro and Kirk, who would I select? Probably Michelle Malkin. I think she's really smart and a real command of the facts and of sort of like our holistic worldview. Not a diss at anybody else that's in here, But she's really good. Vince is really good. He's got all the data. The guy's like an encyclopedia. Or, I don't know. More like a... what would you say he's like? He's more like a human Google Docs, because he's just got he's got the citations, he's got the links, he's got the stats. So Vince is good, Michelle's good, Patrick's a strong debater. I'd choose Patrick. So yeah, any one of those 3, I guess. I just read T-Based. But thank you so much, by the way. Thanks so much for the Ninjets. I gotta send you an email. Chicken Strip Basket King with the huge super chat. Thank you so much. He says, shout out to T-Based. Trump gets his strength from Big Macs. I get 2 and toss 1 or 2 pieces of bread. Too much bread. Keep it up, King. Well, thank you for the huge super chat, man. I really appreciate it. These guys are pulling all the weight, right? Well, Moscow Mitch gave a lot. So, I mean, I'm not trying to diss anybody, but these guys really, they put the whole white race on their back. They put the whole show on their back. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Can't do the show without our Sheldon Adelsons, our Bitcoin, our chain link millionaires, right? So thank you so much, man. And yeah, Big Macs give you energy, dude. How could you not be Big Mac pilled? It's protein, it's vegetable, it's carb. There is too much bread. You take the bread out, you eat 3 of them, and you're vivacious and you're ready to go. I had a few Big Macs. I do the show for hours. I eat Big Macs and a Monster Zero Ultra. I'm unstoppable. I go in there. Ben Shapiro turns into, I shouldn't say that. He evaporates, He just shrinks completely from the challenge. I was going to say something else, but he's just when I have that kind of energy coursing through my veins, it's like all I have to do, I just force push him and he explodes into a million pieces. That's what Big Macs is. It's cheap energy. Zero Ultra, Big Macs, you're just loading up, Big Macs make you age quickly. Yeah, because of all the power coursing through your veins. It's like Palpatine when he's doing the electricity on Mace Windu. That's why it makes you age, because it's power, right? It's energy. Dank Greekoid says the tribe already laid out the game plan for societal domination. Okay, thank you for that. Thanks. Just takes time, patience, and self-awareness. Keep it up, Nick. You are a genius and the funniest. That's the reason people hate you. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words. T-Based says #1 all-time spot stolen. Did you really take the all-time top spot? Wow. You did. Well, thank you. Another Ninja. Thank you so much, man. I got to shoot you an email. I got to put that on my to-do list. Thank you so much. Big shout out. If I were Jaden right now, I'd be jumping around. I'd be playing a little Uzi. I don't have enough room, but I'd be jumping on the chair and dancing. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Very generous. Can we get some 07s? 07s in chat. Can we get some 07s in chat for T-Base? Thank you so much, man. Hearn Master Pain says, when I go for a bro hug with a groiper, I feel this movement growing. How you hide the erection, though. Okay, thank you for that. Kalasaru, can't relate. Kalasaru says, don't forget my pillow. I don't know if you've watched, or my pillow. I don't know if you've watched Fox lately, but it's unending Mike Lindell ads. Yeah, that's true. He needs to start supporting this show. We could do My Pillow ads on this show. Has anybody got a connection? I'll run an ad for My Pillow. I use a My Pillow. I love it. But I'm not going to say that until I get advertising money. Kevin says, any armed resistance should be purely defensive. Your home, your family, and your life. Couldn't agree more, Nick. Any organized resistance should follow suit. Just neighbors protecting each other and their homes from violent protesters. Be smart. The real battle is becoming the institutional change. Well said. And that's exactly right. And you know, I'm glad that you added that because, you know, it is, you should protect your home and your family and your life. You should protect all of that if necessary. And you should protect your neighborhood if you have neighborhood people that are with you. But we went over this with the St. Louis couple and with this guy the other night, you know, and how many people do you have to see destroyed, in jail, dead, charged, whatever, before you realize that you've got to go about this kind of stuff in a way that is just really calculated, in a way that is really cautious. And it's not a message of don't do anything. It's just about, you know, we don't want to waste people's lives for nothing. You know, that's at the end of the day what it is. So yeah, protect your home, protect your family and your life if necessary. And the resistance should not be a public-facing group where you're going to get doxxed to the FBI. It should be your neighbors. It should be protecting your community. And it's true. The real battle now, and we've been saying this forever, is getting in the institutions, generating the resources and the funds, and who knows, maybe there will be a battle in the future. We're not going to be able to win it unless we have that institutional power. So that's got to happen, you know? But thanks so much, man. You get this Kevin Bro. He's one of my favorites. He's always on point. Quantum says, salute to T-Based. Yes, big shout out. Another one of the favorites, T-Based. Dan Greekoid says, I know you are busy saving the white race, but it might be worth asking a weeb groiper to break down Attack on Titan for you. Seems to deeply resonate with like-minded young men who are primed for America First. It will likely explode into the mainstream in November. Well, maybe I'll check that out. I've heard of it. Moscow Mitch says, LOL, I don't care if you swear, Nick, but you're narrowing the breadth of your appeal. Catholic Answers isn't based on AF questions. You can maintain your edge without alienating the most conservative aspects of society. You're a transcendent talent. Make the most of it. Pray about it. I'll pray about it. I think that's a good point. Yeah, you know what? You make a good point. I'll consider it. It's just that to me, I mean, a lot of times I just can't even help it. It's just part of my personality. You know, I'm expressive, and I get very frustrated, and I think that's a part of the edge. And you know, and I know that you can have an edge in other ways, but you know, but I'll think about it. I appreciate the consideration. It's a good point. Polish American Groiper says, I was joking. I'm not nasty. You know I ride or die. I am a real N-word. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Tutu says, just saw Kantbot's face for the first time. It explains why he acts the way he does on Twitter. Physiognomy. Speaks for itself. Ethelred says, hey, Nick, if you were to be born in medieval times, would you be a noble, blacksmith, peasant, or something else? I'd probably be a courtier. You know, I'd probably be like a bishop or somebody in the king's court, if not the king himself. I would like to be the king. But if I couldn't be the king, I'd like to be in the king's court. Or who knows, maybe I'd be a merchant or an artisan. I don't know. I'm not really that great with my hands. I don't know what I'd make. If I were a blacksmith, I'd probably, die. I'd probably burn my head off or something. I don't know. I'd probably be like this conniving, Machiavellian sort of like political person. Afghan Groiper says, I guess because that's what I am. That's what I am in these times. Afghan Groiper says, I guess I'll do a big super chat on behalf of your Muslim allies, temporary allies, to defeat the atheists so we can go back to fighting each other for Jerusalem. Hey, well, thanks for the big super chat, man. I appreciate it. We love Afghan Groiper. We love our Afghan Muslim Groipers. And hey, I don't have a problem with Muslims. I think as long as I don't have a problem with anybody. As long as people respect that America is what it is, and you know what I mean by that. As long as you respect the American heritage and identity, that's fine. You know, you can be America first. I don't even fit the perfect American identity. I'm Italian, Irish, and Mexican. My ancestors have been here for 100 years. But it's about respect. It's about respect and preservation and conservation of that American heritage and identity, which made America great. So I see all groups can be allies. But thanks for the Muslim. Now people are going to say the Saudis are funding the show, right? They're going to say, there was a Muslim groyper. That's what all the Jews will say. The Zionists. They'll say, you're getting money from Palestinians and Muslims. He got a super chat from Afghan groyper. Wonder where he's getting his money, Hezbollah? So, you know, that creates its own issues. But thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Bob Sacamano says, to my fellow city dwellers, the only surefire way to avoid litigation is to sit in your locked house with your registered firearm and warn people trying to break in at least once before shooting. Yes, it's gay and boring, but the government literally wants to make it as difficult as possible for us to use the few guns they even let us own. Be smart. Exactly. And that's how it is in most places. Those are the rules. It's like, you know, even if like anybody would understand you're in the right. You know what I mean? Even if it's like they're breaking in or whatever, they come up with all these rules in liberal states and cities, like you said, to make it impossible to defend yourself. So research the laws, you know, don't get yourself in trouble. But that's your last super chat. Hey, I've only been live for what, like 3.5 hours? So it's only been 3.5 hours. So thanks so much to everybody. Remember to follow this channel. Remember to subscribe to my website. Go to nicholasjfuentes.com. Just $5 a month. You get access to every show, every video I've ever done virtually. Gaming, commentary, shows, interviews, speeches. So check that out. Remember, I'm on the air Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Nicholas J. Fuentes. As always, thanks for watching. In particular, we have to give a huge shout-out and some 07s in chat to T-Based, Chicken Strip Basket King, Moscow Mitch, Afghan Groyper, Base Dollar, Optics Respecter. A big shout-out to our top super chatters tonight. We couldn't do the show without these guys. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do the show without you. So I really appreciate it. Some special thanks to them. But thanks to everybody that watches the show. Thanks to all of our super chatters, of course. Thanks to everybody that subscribes and watches. We love you. And I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. It's going to be only America first. America first. The American people will come first once again.